All right, welcome back to Straight Talk. I am very excited about tonight because I really didn't want to focus in on one thing. I just wanted to be like a hodgepodge of different things. So that's what we're going to be concentrating on tonight. So I really want to make sure I do a good job, like I always do. I hope that it is truly enlightening to the people who will be watching this, and that you get something out of it. You know. So the first thing I'm going to be talking about is what has been going on since day one over the last 150 years, since the 1880s. And we talk about white people not being white, not being Caucasian, Aryan, Anglo-Saxon, European, and the like, because they're not. They are bleached out black people who come from Dravidian albino that made it with normal black people. Now, what I'm going to do first is to show the first clip of how these people lived uh, in, uh, in Europe. And I'm gonna go to the screen and share that with you guys, and then we'll be on our way. So the first one is gonna be on uh, Facebook. Excuse me for going through these, but I think you're gonna be very pleased as to what the direction I am going and what I am trying to put on the table with what I do always and do the facts and everything else. And if you remove everything that doesn't make any sense, then what is left must be true, right? So hold on. I'm gonna get to this, and this one is very, very interesting. I'm gonna get to that in a minute, but I want to focus in on the first one if I can find it. I know it's here. So, and we are on our way. Here we go. So, please pay attention and get it.
History get lost? And of course, the answer was it wasn't lost. It was intentionally ignored. It was intentionally dropped. We didn't want you to know that there was this thriving civilization that put lamps up that were powered by petroleum 1,000 years ago, and were doing cataract surgery 1,000 years ago, while Europeans were living in little towns like Paris, where where the streets were literally their sewage system. Right? And they would just throw the fecal matter and urine out the window, and it would flow in the rain into the wells, which is why they couldn't drink their water, because you just die of cholera and dysentery instantaneously if you did. Which meant that during that time period, Europeans could only drink beer and wine, and so they were constantly drunk. But it's okay; they smelled like fecal matter and urine, so it was a way to compensate, I think. That and they had to wear wool, so they were always walking around itching. And so you smelled like poop and piss, and you're itching. So you might as well be drunk. History get lost. And of course, the answer was it wasn't lost. It was intentionally ignored. It was intentionally dropped. We didn't want you to know that there was this thriving civilization that put lamps up that were powered by petroleum 1,000 years ago, and were doing cataract surgery 1,000 years ago, while Europeans were living in little towns like Paris, where the streets were literally their sewage system. Right? And they would just throw the fecal matter and urine out the window, and it would flow in the rain into the wells, which is why they couldn't drink their water, because you just die of cholera and dysentery instantaneously if you did. Which meant that during that time period, Europeans could only drink beer and wine, and so they were constantly drunk. But it's okay; they smelled like fecal matter and urine, so it was a way to compensate, I think. That and they had to wear wool, so they were always walking around itching. And so you smelled like poop and piss, and you're itching. So you might as well be drunk.
All right, so uh, I'm gonna stop it right here and really uh, deal with that. Because right now, Syria and Assad have just left. And it seemed to be, Brother Donald, what's going on, man? You got it. It seemed to be that Netanyahu and the CIA just gave Netanyahu a Hail Mary pass. Now, I've read and I've seen video where this is a setup by Russia and China and so on and so forth, but we're going to see what's going to happen. But like I always say, uh, evil will always destroy itself. In the end, for those who partake in always, ALWAYS, and in always, ALLWAYS. Now, that short little uh, video depicts the very nature of these animals that they would love to be called Caucasian or white or Anglo-Saxon, Saxon, you name it. And it spells out how woefully sick that these people are, how ignorant that these people are. And I've said it on this show, and I've said it on Brother Maurice's show, that black people like bees. We're productive, we organize, we protect our hive. We know that some of our people will have to be fight and die to save the rest of us, and that's the price of freedom. We pollinate other plants and so on and so forth. Now, when it comes to white people, they're flies. They love to land on shit, eat shit, have babies and shit. This is some real shit. Not no pun intended. But you got to realize these people come from nothing. I don't even know if there's a word that describes being less than animal. Because they have never, ever created not one civilization, not one language, not one culture, not one religion. All of that was done by black people and brown skinned people. And they have no pride in what they do. This is the reason why white people like Netanyahu, who's not a real Jew. To be a Jew, you have to be black. I really, really hate saying black Jew because it should be understood that when you say Jew, you're talking about black people. You're not talking about white people. They went into not only throughout the Levant and Palestine and destroying ancient artifacts and buildings, but god damn, you can tell that they not appreciative of history. They destroy the four things they did that they do out of 4D: death, destruction, disease, and despair. They have gone into Syria and destroyed a 4,000-year-old civilization and building that have been well over 4,000 years old. They don't give a fuck. This is how you know these people are animals. These people are animals, you guys. These people are animals. And what you got to do with animals, you got to put them down. Our ancestors did it in Egypt. Our ancestors did it in Greece and Rome, and now we're in the same position. 3 strikes and you are out as a baseball. There's no more. The world has been turned upside down, inside out, making people think good is bad, bad is good, and the whole nine. These people are natural, hedonistic people. They're going around fucking dogs and animals in their brothel throughout Europe. They're having sex with other of their own kind, 2, 3, 4, 6, 10 people deep, where they're pissing and shitting on themselves. Don't take my word for it. This is some real shit. Hunter Biden, Hillary Clinton, all of these so-called one, hey, Sister Kathy, you got it. All of these people are caught up. And I was just speaking with Sister Kathy and Brother Donald, Brother Maurice, and I was telling them how insidious these people are, and that the vast majority of these people are unqualified to do a motherfucking thing, nothing. You talking about a DEI and whatever they try to say that we are trying to do to get on the inside track. These people have it from top to bottom, inside and out. It's like it's rigged for them. And I truly believe and I know that karma is here. These people are dying and Trump can't save them. Their numbers are dwindling. They don't even report it. They're talking about black people being killers of their babies. No, we're not. I found that out to be not true. Out of the 50 states, I want to make sure I get this right. I think it's no less than 38, between 38 and 40 states reported. Now, out of those 40 states, I would say 34 of them, out of the 40 states, 34 reported that more white women are killing their baby than black women. Now, if that's true, you can add the other 10 to their side too. Okay, it's that vast majority. And if black women are killing their baby, it's not that much more of a difference. You know what I mean? So you have to be cognizant. You have to be aware of what is going on with these people who are lying through their teeth. They're not making it. And with the juice that they made, and I spoke with Brother Marie, we're talking about Malaysia have a 99% juice taking rate. 1, 2, or 3 bottles of that shit. You know what I'm trying to say. That this is just hideous to its core. And we have no choice but to get rid of these motherfuckers, because if we don't, all hell will just break loose even worse than what it is. These people are a mistake. Now, I played a video the last time that I was here. The last time I was here, where a white girl was saying that these people, their people, are here by mistake. They're here by accident. They're not supposed to be here. And that is so true. Albinos are not supposed to be here. They're a freak of nature, if I want to say that, right? And it is so very important to understand where we are on the historical pages of history, on the political battlefield of history, on the economic playing field of history. And as I was speaking with Brother Muhammad, I was telling him that the Sahel state just told Air France, you can't come back here and do a motherfucking thing. They losing $65 million a month. $650 million a year, damn near over $500 million. And that says a lot about unity. Hoover said the biggest, most dangerous threat to America, if not the world, is black unity. There it is. I can't make it no plain. And we are seeing the blessings that are coming out of the Sahel state. Now Ghana is part of it. We're going to see it more and more and more. What was the name of the country? I wanted to say Algeria, but that's not the name of the country. Angola were dominated by Portugal. Now, you know, Portugal was a European state, and there were nothing but black people there. But over time, these heathens that we call white people today took over our land, our titles, our names, and the money that's not there. You got to understand that the name you got is not a slave name. These creatures, these cretins, didn't have a first name, and they sure enough fuck didn't have a last name. They got their names from us, whether it's Irish, Danish, Irish, the Dane, the Scotch, the French, the German. All of those names are black names. Don't let them fool you into believing something that's not true. They're blowing smoke up your fucking asses. Wake up and know your past. Because when you know the past, you can understand the present and predict the future. My people, wake up. You are being swindled, laughed at behind your back, and these motherfuckers are pissing down your back. When you turn around, they tell you it's raining. You know what piss smells like. You know what piss smells like. And this is why I speak on it so often and so much, because I know these motherfuckers. I never had a problem with them when I was younger, because my parents made sure I dealt with these motherfuckers on the up and up. And I'm very serious about that. And all we got to do is just unify. That's it. Political, economic, spiritual, and physical. White people know they cannot beat us. They know this, but somehow, some way, they done fooled us into believing that, that they're superior. But all you got to do is just pull back the curtain. This Wizard of Oz is not a Wizard of Oz. It's a Wizard of fucking fools and charlatans and and clowns. Pull back the curtain, and you will see a little bitch of a man or woman standing there pulling these gadgets and strings and buttons and everything and making it look like they're bigger than life itself. But you're the one who are big, black man, black woman. Without you, white folks cannot be. Without you, white folks cannot be. Without you. We don't need them. Not a motherfucking day do we need them. France is in up in arm. Macron don't know what the fuck to do. Cause now all we gotta do is just stand up. They playing chess on our back. Checkers on our back. All you gotta do is just stand up and knock over the goddamn board and say no more. And bitch slap the shit out of them, literally and figuratively, politically, economically, and spiritually. So I'm gonna go to the next one. And I want to go back to share screen. We're gonna get it on and popping. I'm gonna go to the next one. So we did that one. Let me go back and look at this again. I'm gonna have to kind of scroll through these. Yeah, I'm gonna have to kind of scroll through these and find them again. I guess I should have did the quarterly fashion, but all the other ones are done. Don't trip. But, you know, I like being thorough, so this is a good thing. So, hold on, let me see. Okay, if it's not here, then it's down. Okay, hold on down. Now, this is one of the things that I like too. I remember this girl. She went through a homeless girl named Khadija Wayne. Went to Harvard. She attended 12 schools in 12 years. Lived out of garbage bags among pimps and prostitutes and drug dealers. She was accepted to more than 20 universities before choosing Harvard. No excuses. No excuses. I love that about our people. There's just no stopping us. Okay, so hold on. We'll be right on the thing. So, let me see. So, this is the one that I wanted to talk about too. Now, you gotta really pay attention and listen, because the way the white media played Bill Gates back in the day in the 80s, I guess, no, in the 90s, he was billed as a genius. And, you know, everybody was just flocking to him and saying this, saying that, doing this and doing that. let's see what this Indian lady says about it.
It's come to exert such power. Bill Gates did not invent anything. The basic program was made by some mathematics professors in a college. The Office operating system was by a software engineer, and he bought it for £50. He's built the empire by creating patents on software. And the first WTO meeting in Singapore gave him tax concessions, which is why all the IT industry moved to India. The fact that Silicon Valley became India's Silicon Valley is because they could save $40 billion annually. It was an outsourcing of software, all for Bill Gates. He, with this accumulation of money and making any communication system illegal, like the communication system through real currencies and forcing digital payments, he's the one who gains because all the software for all the digital economy, he collects rents and royalties on that. How did Bill Gates come to exert such power? Bill Gates did not invent anything. The basic program was made by some mathematics professors in a college. The Office operating system was by a software engineer, and he bought it for $50.
So you heard it here. This is so very important. We got to understand these people and where they're coming from and how they manage their image. How they manage their image. How they manage their image. They cannot and they will not and they don't want that image to be tarnished. In the movies, in books, magazines, it's always a superior status and image and control that they have. They spend billions upon billions upon billions of dollars making sure that they have a perfect, clean image. But if you peel back that thin layer of lies and deceit, you get a whole nother image. And an image of ineptitude, an image of pedophilic affiliation, an image of wife beating, mother killing of themselves. And they talk about black on black crime. You ain't seen shit. Our problem is look like Boy Scout problem to this. And they have no control over it. They just the worst fucking mothers and fathers. The best fathers in the world are black, and especially in America. Married or not married. We spend time with our kids. They don't. White men are the most disgusting motherfuckers on the planet. They just are not capable of feeling. They have no instinct in regard to associating empathy with other people. They just don't. So I'm gonna look again and see where we are with this. Now here, I really don't want to play this one, but I love the fact of how we move. These young girls are not out here talking about hoes and bitches in their rap game. They're talking about education. So I'm gonna play that. Here we go.
I do know one thing never quit. I am never not trying. I got a mission GPS, but I'm so shiny. Ain't it just a few years? Got just right. I keep it pushing, no time for the strike. I'm right. I got gold for scholarship, so every second is vital. Yeah, you can my title, don't hang on top of the night. Ain't in the project, I won't be as bright as my idol. You see the pressure is nothing. I go from 0 to 100. That means nothing to something. It's straight to college and running. You see the running, I'm flooding. It comes droids and I'm coming and giving nothing to nothing. And that's the end of the discussion. Michelle Obama show me how to do. So I'ma get it, educated, motivated, elevated, got big shoes to fill. I'ma do it with class. I'm business for real. I'm at the top of my class. I'm talking MD, JD, and PhD, RD, OD, and of course AD. I gotta get the type of education, so I'ma feed it. And I think I found my dissertation. Cause I'm a nigga, so if you with me and you see me, if you ready to grind, do me a favor and repeat these a simple line. I am smart, I am strong, my life matter, I'm a blessed. I am smart, I am strong, my life matter, I'm a blessed. I'm a queen, I'm a king, I can.
Man, if I look, if you don't know by now, you ain't gonna never know. That's our ancestors speaking through these young black girls. Get connected. We are so unconnected from our ancestors. Get back, plug back in. There's a record called the Akashic Record. If you do that with all honesty, with all with all your heart, mind, and soul, all your heart, mind, and soul, you're gonna see what I'm saying. You're gonna see what Brother Muhammad said. You're gonna see what everybody that's on the show sees. Sister Cassie, we know this. There's no stopping us. We got that flow, that melanin, baby, that cannot be denied. And you just saw that in these young girls. It's just a natural way of being. Hold on, let me see. So, I think that's it. I thought this was interesting. It looked like they're floating, but I think it's worth to take a look at it. So we'll take a look at it. So, there's nothing like being black. I can tell you this right now. So we're gonna take a look at this. This is a 3-minute video. It's about a brother who's talking about how they align about content. But you cannot take what you hear from white people to be the truth. You just can't. But they're scared of the truth. They know who we are. They know who they aren't. So I'll be right back.
That Europe is a continent because Europeans told us it was a continent. That in itself is part of the concept of whiteness.
Welcome, Candid Africa, truthful and unapologetic.
So, first of all, there are times that we believe things that are simply not true. And one example, I want you to think about this for a while, something that you perhaps have learned in grade school about the world. So, and don't call out on this, but here's the question. How many continents are there? I'm sure you learned about that. And then the other question is, can you name them? With a teacher, there's always a quiz. So can you name them? Okay, and I said not to call out. So if you said 7, you are absolutely wrong. Continent is a huge body of land. There are 6 huge bodies of land. And you probably think, well, South America. And then you get to Europe and Asia. And Europe and Asia is one landmass. Continent, I used to teach geography. Continent is a huge body of land separated from others or almost separated. Europe is not separated. But probably in school you learn that Europe and Asia are separated by the Ural Mountains. Check out Mr. Webster. He says nothing about mountains separating continents. But we have come to believe that Europe is a continent because Europeans told us it was a continent. That in itself is part of the concept of whiteness. Europe is not a continent. It's a small part of Eurasia. And yet, for the longest time, and probably up until today, you believed it. And if you talk to people outside of this gathering, and you ask them, so how many continents are there? They say 7, and they'll rattle it off. And then you say, no, Europe isn't a continent. Oh, yes, it is. Because they learned it in the 5th grade. And they learned it well, but they learned it incorrectly. In the same way, and what I'm getting at is that sometimes we believe things that are absolutely not true, and yet we cling to them.
There we have it. That has been our candid speech for today. Please feel free to give your opinions in the descriptions below. On this show, we don't tell you how to think or manipulate you. Everybody is open to air the opinion, what you think about the speech. Did you love it? Did you like it? You disagree with it? You agree with it? Please let us know in the comments below. That's important. Discussing these issues is very important. So now with that said, please make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Share this video with friends and family. It's the best way for YouTube to spread this video further, okay? So it's been me, Mike.
If you ain't caught on by now, I'm just gonna tell you, fuck all white folks. They lie, they scheme, they connive always 365 days a week, 24/7. And like I was just saying, their image, they got to keep that up. They got to make sure that what they've been lying about and being deceitful about, that the world don't catch on to it. But it's already caught on. There are 3 things that you cannot hide forever: the sun, the moon, and the truth. And what they say about us is really they're talking about themselves. They talk about us being monkeys. Hell, they're the monkey. Yale University, the best scientists in China and Europe and elsewhere, did a genetic IQ testing about the monkey, the chimpanzee, and the gorilla. They scored 3, 4, and 5 on the IQ intelligence DNA sequence test. White people scored a 6, just 1 step up from the monkey. Where do black people score? Where do black people score? 9. You might as well say 10. It's so damn near close. You might as well say 10. So let me get out of here and see where we're going with this. So, you know, every time that I'm on here, I really, really, really want to make sure that I'm nailing the subject down into the fucking ground and making sure that you guys are aware as much as possible, and you can take the information and you can move it forward. Never allow white folks to move the goalposts. Fuck them all. And everything they stand for, I give no fuck about these people. I care about nothing about them. They lie, they scheme, they connive, they only do the 4 things that they bring to the table of humanity: death, destruction, disease, and despair. So, hold on, let me see. Anybody? Okay, here we go. Brother Elias, are you there?
Yeah, but I'm eating. I'll be on in about 5 minutes. I'll let you know. I'll call.
Okay.
I'll chime in.
Okay. All right, cool. So, so we're gonna go on to this sister who is a part of the African diaspora that you can find on YouTube. And I'm gonna let you hear this white man tell you about how they feel about niggas, us. And don't you ever forget about this, what this motherfucker's saying. They don't give a fuck about it, like Michael Jackson sang about. Let's start it, and I'll be right back.
An interview that was made several years ago of a man admitting to causing chaos in Africa, including the spread of HIV and deadly that saw millions die at the hands of hungry, greedy politicians. And it breaks my heart because everyone seems to know what is happening in Africa except for Africans themselves. This man has the nerve to sit there and admit all these evil deeds without conviction or an ounce of guilt. Check out this video.
Operations were you doing?
Well, this Afghanistan operations, we were involved in coups, taking over countries for other years. We were involved in Mozambique, spreading the AIDS virus through medical conditions. We were involved in Angola with Dr. Jonas Savimbi for various operations. We were military support.
So people were killed during these operations?
No, definitely.
I guess the question, and then you can come in. You mentioned actively spreading it.
There was a unit in from Simon, and one of the things was that we went into African countries.
And how was that done?
Through inoculation.
Through vaccines?
Yeah, through vaccines. Pretending to inoculate people and
the idea being to kill black people?
Yeah, too many people. You must understand the concept was that AIDS was a killer. It was incurable at that point in time. So it was led to believe that if you infected people, it was the quick, non-militaristic approach to eliminate bad people.
And that is something you know for a fact that AIDS was actually being spread to other countries?
Yes. To African countries.
Before we continue with
Africa's history is riddled with betrayal, coups, HIV, and exploitation, disguised as AIDS. They are not our friends. They are resource hunters, these European people, by the way, if you think they love you. If Africans haven't learned this by now, they're in for a bleak future. What further proofs do you need besides the centuries of slavery and colonialism visited on the continent by both Arabs and Europeans? Until Africa learns to unite, they will continue to be exploited. I mean, guys, they keep on telling on themselves. They keep on expressing how much they hate black people, and we're still bending backwards, over and backwards for them. We are still, defending them. South Africans will go to war for their masters. South Africans love their white people. I always say that. And these people, every single time in interviews are now resurfacing of how they were involved in the downfall of Africa and how they are still involved in making sure that Africa is still on its knees and make sure that Africa will never rise. And here we are still hating on each other. And to make matters worse, we are led by backstabbers and sellouts. Guys, we need to relax. I'm sure some of y'all have seen the full interview. I haven't seen the full interview. So in the comment section below, do tell me other aspects that I've missed from the interview itself or from the little snippet that you have seen. What do you think about these interviews now resurfacing? They are trying so hard to show us the light, and it's like we are blinded. They are showing you that they do not care about us. These NGOs, these humanitarian aid, it's just a front, a smoke screen to keep on exploiting us, and the leaders are allowing it. And how many times do I have to tell you, black people, they do not love you. Stop defending them. Y'all went after Chidima but accepted yellow. Make it make sense. I'm still there. I'm still hurt. At least if a Zulu person won the Miss South Africa pageant, fine. But to take out a young black African from achieving her dreams and putting a white person, it was a spit in our faces. It was a middle finger to the heroes that died in the name of liberation and freedom. And these people are showing us in interviews they are involved in the destruction of Africa, and yet we are still dancing to the beat of their tune. I hate us so much. Sometimes I hate us so much. Like, I hate what poverty has done to us. No, I'm sorry to say, haters, but sometimes I just feel like shaking ourselves and saying, "Wake up, wake up!" They mean every word. That man meant every word. And there are still other agents that are underground in Africa that are making sure that we are still on our knees, that are making sure that the restrictions and hard laws when it comes to trading with other African countries and uniting with other African countries. They making sure that these laws, these tight laws that restrict us from doing that, are still alive and well and strong. And at this point, they are constitutional. Imagine. Ugh. At this point, I'll go on and ramble and say things that I don't mean and I get cancelled. What do you think about this segment? Comment to us in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and share the broadcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss these groundbreaking conversations right here on the African Diasporans channel. Unleash the power of knowledge and connect with the...
I can't make it any more grand or obvious or plain than that, sister. When is enough is enough. Fuck the kumbaya with these motherfuckers. Fuck trying to get along to go along with them, even these motherfucking chinks. You're gonna see why. These motherfucking pink people, albino related people, have lost their goddamn mind. Literally lost their mind. But let me close this one out. I want to go to this one. This one is 13 minutes long, but I'm going to do the Chinese one because you guys have got to see this one. I don't even know why they allowed this bullshit to happen. And this one is 8 minutes long, and I will be right back.
Meeting for Africa. African leaders love dealing with China, but they may want to think twice before continuing. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. Real quick, some big news. After a lot of hard work, we have officially launched our new premium website over at ChinaUncensored.tv. YouTube and now Patreon have been messing with our show, so the only way we can keep making China Uncensored is with your support on the premium website. I'll still be uploading the same amount of videos as usual to YouTube, because I want as many people to know about China and the CCP as possible. And if you'd like to join me in that fight, subscribe to the new website, and I'll give you exclusive premium episodes you won't see anywhere else. Website-only live streams, a way to chat directly with me and the team, and more. The link is below. With your help, we can keep China uncensored. Now on with the show. So, it's finally happening. In the 11th hour of his presidency, 2 years after U.S. President Joe Biden vowed to visit Africa, he is finally fulfilling his promise as the U.S. looks to counter China's deepening influence there. The trip will mark the first time a U.S. president has visited sub-Saharan Africa since 2015, and the first time ever that a U.S. president has visited the country of Angola. But when it comes to Africa, the U.S. is definitely late to the party. Maybe Joe got lost on his recent trip in the Amazon. The Chinese Communist Party has gradually been taking over Africa through its so-called infrastructure investment plan, the Belt and Road Initiative. The U.S. is going to have to play catch-up. The good news is that the CCP has had plenty of time in Africa to show its true colors. Chinese state-run media would have you believe the China-Africa partnership has been an example for building a shared future. But the truth is a different matter.
Hold on.
In actuality, China's involvement in Africa is riddled with corruption, such as this video, purportedly of a Chinese national giving a Zambian minister a large cash bribe. Then, of course, there's the shoddy infrastructure, like Kenya's railway to nowhere and a crumbling metro in Ethiopia, not to mention the poor treatment of African workers at Chinese hands. Beyond that, illegal Chinese fishing off East Africa is hurting local, a crumbling metro in Ethiopia, not to mention the poor...
Look at this shit.
Poor treatment of African workers at Chinese hands. Beyond that, illegal Chinese fishing off East Africa is hurting local communities. Cheap Chinese crap dominates the African markets, and Chinese loans are pushing the world's poorest countries to the brink of collapse. Yes, China is bringing all sorts of peace and prosperity to its new empire. Just look at that peaceful prosperity. But just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, China began funding African terrorist groups. This is happening in a lot of different ways, but one of the major ways is through logging. Yes, logging. It turns out that one of Africa's most precious resources isn't minerals or diamonds, or even ivory. It's wood. As it turns out, the Chinese demand for rare rosewood, used to make high-end antique-style furniture, is empowering some of Africa's deadliest terrorist groups. Rosewood trade is banned in 16 African countries in a desperate attempt to save rosewood species from extinction. But as they say in China, please don't hurt me or my family, I'll do whatever you say. Oh, I meant the other thing they say. Rules are just suggestions. The rosewood must flow. Chinese companies are heavily involved in the rosewood trade, but they're not the only ones. Chinese officials are too. According to the Environmental Investigation Agency, in 2017, some 1.4 million illegal logs were allowed into China due to a grand corruption scheme that involved over $1 million paid by influential Chinese and Nigerian businessmen to senior Nigerian officials. Some of the transactions were facilitated by Chinese diplomats. That doesn't surprise me, considering that Chinese government officials have a history of working with criminal organizations. The CCP itself is basically the mafia. Guess what? Some of that wood came from areas controlled by the terrorist organization Boko Haram. Remember them? Still alive and kicking hostages specifically. Are Chinese exporters supporting terrorism by buying wood from terrorist-controlled forests? No, of course not. According to a Chinese exporter with the pseudonym Mr. T, you can't say that, and it's beyond their concern. I pity the fool who turns a blind eye to terrorism. Meanwhile, according to the Institute for Security Studies, in West African forest regions controlled by the terrorist group Janim, the militants began demanding access fees from Chinese traders, including lumber traders. But China's top rosewood supplier is Mozambique. Most of the wood there comes from the province of Cabo Delgado, a smuggler's paradise that's home to an arm of the Islamic State. Environmental Investigation Agency investigators were told that 30% of the timber logged in Cabo Delgado is at high risk of coming from insurgency-occupied forests. I've heard of cruelty-free makeup, but are we sure those blocks weren't made from cruelty-fueled wood? There's also a good chance that G20 leaders sat on chairs made of lumber that fueled terrorists, in this case, African blackwood rather than rosewood. And China's not just giving money to these terrorists, it's giving weapons. Photos and videos of Jinim militants show them armed with weapons produced by Norinco, a Chinese state-owned defense contractor. That couldn't be just a coincidence. If rebel fighters in Mozambique weren't also equipped with Chinese AK variants, according to one arms research think tank. In addition, the Congolese group M23 also has Chinese weapons, particularly from Norinco and Xinjiang. Some, like the paramilitary Rapid Support Force in Sudan, even uses Chinese suicide drones. Okay, so 4 coincidences. Though I'm pretty sure that's what's known as a pattern. Given that China has eclipsed Russia as the largest exporter of arms in sub-Saharan Africa, I'm not surprised that terrorists got their hands on Chinese weapons. Of course, a lot of these kinds of organizations get their weapons from their enemies, so this isn't proof that the Chinese government is directly arming terrorist groups. But kind of doesn't matter. At least indirectly, China is funding and arming these groups. That is good. And yes, I'm aware that the United States has some answering to do on that front as well. Thanks for the pullout, America. It's also a never-ending cycle. African militaries fighting terrorists and insurgent groups have one solution. Buy even more Chinese weapons. They're cheap and come with very few strings attached. Potentially, literally, because they're so cheap, I wouldn't be surprised if they were held together with string. China has a long history of arming African factions. China better hope it doesn't blow up in its face. continue to blow up in its face. So hopefully, the U.S. is successful in countering Chinese influence in Africa. As soon as Joe finds his way out of the Amazon, episodes like this wouldn't be possible without your support. So instead of clicking to the next video, head over to our new premium website at China Uncensored.
I want to get out of here and go back to that. Hold on. So, hey, brother Eli, what's going on, man?
What's up, my man? How are you today?
You got it. You got it. What's up, brother Willie Rivers? Sometimes I can get confused with them W's and R. Willie Rivers. What's going on, baby boy?
Hey, you could call him. You could call him William Wivers.
Yeah. I don't know why, but my tongue get all twisted up.
It's all good.
Willie Rivers.
What are you gonna play next, bro?
Yeah, well, we just watched China and its involvement in Africa,
Right.
and how they're not really our friend. They're building roads half-assed, bridges half-assed, and it's like Africa can't build its own roads and bridges.
Not when you.
We built the pyramids, motherfucker. What the fuck is that goddamn road and bridges?
You know why they can't build their own roads and bridges?
Why?
Because if they leave it up to their ministers, they're gonna chop all that money and ain't gonna be no bridge built. I lived in Ghana 2 years, bro. Trust me. They dig the trenches and just put like railings over where the sewer is supposed to be. You think it's funny, but that's literally how they do it.
It's finally sad.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's tragic, man.
But anyway, let's cover what you were talking about. The information on your website.
For those of you out there who don't know me, my name is my brother calls me Elias Flavius, but I like to go by Blacksmith, the name you see on the screen. Last week I wanted my brother Isaiah to look at a matter of fact, let me put the link up and then you guys can go into it and see for yourself. But I had wrote an article and provided plenty of links called As Countries Collapse. You're about to get that in a minute. Hopefully my brother will post it and then we can go from there. I'm going to post it in the chat, my bro.
Okay. And
Done.
I'll post it. Okay, hold on.
Okay. So in that I caught the first things I heard when I came on were you talking about France and how Africa is kicking them out of all their countries and so on and so forth, and now their government is gone broke and so on. We covered that a little bit last week, but with the events of this past week, we now see that South Korea's government has fallen. France, 5 African nations have outright kicked France out, and that would be Chad, Burkina Faso, where Traoré, the leader of this movement, is located. Mali. Actually, Mali started it a few years back.
Right.
But then, because, see, we have to understand something about Africa that I didn't know about until I got there. I lived in Ghana. I thought when you went to an African country, everybody was like how it is in the United States. Black Americans are a solid block of people. So I thought Nigerians were a solid block of people, but they go more by their group names as opposed to, of course, they're proud of being Ghanaian. You have most African countries have over 100 groups of different people. And when I say groups, I mean on a tribal level, but the word tribe in Africa is not how we define it. It's like, you know, like people who are primitive and, you know, don't know anything. So anyway, getting back to what I'm talking about, Burkina Faso, Chad, Niger, Mali, and one more I can't remember off.
I think it's Ghana now, right?
No, all of them are, I'm talking Francophone countries.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't remember the fifth one right now, but I'll get that information before we move on to the next thing, and how that is affecting the global market. Now, the last one I covered, because I think it was the day before that day in actuality, was Syria. And if you are interested in geopolitics, when the United States indirectly was fighting Syria, maybe up to about 3-4 years ago, and it got stabilized, and all those Syrians who moved back into Syria. Supposedly at that time, Assad was a populist, and his people loved him, and this is why he was able to keep hold of the sea, even though his country was ravaged, and they're in the process of rebuilding now. So, to you, my brother, did you read the article first of all? I'm talking to you now, brother Isaiah.
Yeah, I had it on mute. Yeah, I read it.
Okay, so I want to ask you a question now. With all that said, where did this rebellious faction of rebels pop up to unseat Assad so quickly? I mean, this happened like it was like there's a rebel force there, and the next day he went to Moscow. So I want to ask you if you have any clues as to how that may have happened.
To be honest, right off the bat, no.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you. This is a theory, so don't come for me in the event it gets proven untrue. But I have a brother that I watch on YouTube religiously, and he said that the two wars, the first one being the Russia-Ukraine war, and then the Israel-Hamas war, or, you know, the Jews versus the Arabs, if you will.
Right.
He told me, he didn't tell me this. He made a video, and I watched it. And he said all of these wars are fake. That the reason that these things are happening is because the Russians and the Ukrainians are fighting the Anunnaki, because that's where their portals are. I'm sure you've heard this before in some shape or form.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And when they got a lot of resistance and they had to move on, they reopened it in somewhere in Israel, Palestine, whatever you're going to call it. And now the third front, where the portals are now, is in Syria. So this is why I believe Assad had to leave, because when he went back to his country along with most of his people, the ones that survived the war, that is, you know, he was a populist. He was popular. Everybody loved him, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this rebel popped up, and like he was gone in days. And from the looks of it, it's an internal struggle, not a border situation. So I'm like, that doesn't make any sense for him to be rebuilding the country, and then of all places, he went to Moscow. So I believe that Putin's in charge of that, because all that is happening in his area of interest. And so he just said, just come over here until we either they defeat us or we defeat them. And
Right.
what gives me why I believe that's true is because if Russia is this great superpower and they're still fighting a war almost 2 years later with a country that half their men were gone in the first, when the bombs started and everything started popping off, half the country of Ukraine left. So that left the other half there. And I'm including women when I say this. So if you could defeat this place so quickly, why would you wind up, they say that Russia lost over 500,000 men. Why would you put your army in a situation where they could be depleted? So it started to make sense. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense to me, because you wouldn't, if you know you might have to fight the United States or another big country, you wouldn't allow your soldiers to die so readily in a war you could win in weeks or days. So this is what I believe as far as that's concerned. So, and I said as much in that article. So for those of you who want to check it out, it's on the screen. You can see that's the link that'll take you directly to that article. And if you want to just look at the site period, you just take off the what's after the / after.com. And just check out my other stuff. I write about geopolitics, entertainment industry, and so much more. And with that, I give it back to you, my brother.
Okay. What do you think about all of these orbs and vehicle-sized drones that are being seen floating around and, changing, have the ability to change to whatever? How does that play into it? Or is that blue beam?
I don't know. I'm gonna give you a two-ply answer. If it is blue beam, let me go with that one first. If it is blue beam, I believe it's technology that has never been seen by man before, probably created in some deep underground lab or something like that. If it isn't, I always tell you guys out there that I believe the mandate that Trump got, who was 46, he was the first, or actually the 19th president of the new republic, as opposed to the defunct corporation that Biden is overseeing. And that's not the real Biden. Biden was eulogized and inaugurated on the same day. We know that whoever that is playing Biden and Kamala is wearing skin masks. This is old information. No need to rehash that. So what I'm saying is Trump's mandate is from the Galactic Federation to restore this earth as close as possible back to the way it's supposed to be for us to take it back over. I believe that. I can't prove that. Don't ask me for receipts or evidence of such. I've seen it all over the place. So if you really want to see that information, you can find it if you Google it or, look it up on one of your search engines.
Okay.
Right.
Because that's kind of interesting, because to me, seeing is believing. I believe it when I see it. You know what I mean? It seems as though white folk always see some shit that niggas don't see.
Hey, I saw a report a few days ago that said that it was Iranian drones. I don't know which agency released that information, but then when the Biden spokeswoman, the black lesbian chick that took Jen Psaki's place, I don't remember her name right now. I don't even watch that shit no more. That's all bullshit. But I was watching a video and she said that nobody's there is confirming or denying that it didn't come from the White House, that came from another agency. So it could be NASA or NOAA, or one of them agencies that are into the environment and looking into stuff like that.
Right.
So but I believe in my heart and mind. Now remember, when these UAPs started appearing, it was centered around Trump's mansion in New Jersey, in a small town called Bedminster. So this has given me the impetus to believe that it's real, because that has to be restricted airspace.
Mm-hmm.
So, if he's the president-elect, or you believe what I said, that he's the president of the new republic as opposed to the defunct corporation, then he has to know what's going up there.
Right. Yeah, he got to know what's going on, because they're gonna let him know. And
the intelligence says also that the real Trump is not at that mansion in Bedminster or in Mar-a-Lago. That he's being protected in a deep underground military base under Mount Cheyenne.
Yeah, I'm about to say that.
Right. So that's not the real one there. And supposedly Elon Musk again turned coat, and he's supposedly a bad guy again. He goes back and forth. But I believe that's probably like the distraction tactic, because I'm sure by now, if he was nefarious toward the agenda of the white hats, he would have been outed and killed, or it could be a clone, or they could just be throwing salt in the game for us to be distracted so that they can do what they do without us knowing fully what's really happening.
Right.
So I go about those kind of things and look at them from different angles, as opposed to just saying, okay, this is the answer that I got. You throw it in there, and whatever you discern with whatever information you got, or anybody out there listening for that matter, put it all together and come up with your own conclusion.
Okay.
Right.
So look, we're going to go on because we don't have that many left. We're not going to be on for too much longer. I think about another hour, which is about 2 hours, 2 hours, 15 minutes. But I really wanted to focus in on the hate that white people have for us. That's not going to ever go away. There will never, ever be a kumbaya moment with these motherfuckers. We're positive, they're negative. We're up, they're down. They're the complete opposite of us. I don't give a fuck how good they may be, how sound they may be, how kumbaya moment they may have with us. Fuck them all. And here we go. We're going to go right to, hold on, let me excuse the noise of the kids. I don't know, they should have their ass in bed by now.
They all right, brother. Let them rock, man. They being themselves. Yeah. They ain't not stopping nothing.
So let me go to the share screen, and then I will be right back. Now, this is the young guy by the name of Daniel Penny that was proven to be innocent of his murder, obviously, of the black guy that was the Michael Jackson imitator. And here we go.
Jordan Neely.
Oh. So I'm sure you guys are already aware of Daniel Penny and what happened there, him being adjudicated and found not guilty, which I personally believe to be a complete miscarriage of justice. Absolute travesty. But being there in this country, you unfortunately have been desensitized to justice, to where when justice actually happens, you're shocked. I think that is the norm for many people in this country, unfortunately. But nevertheless, I say that to say this because there's this interview that Daniel Penny does with Fox News, of course, right? And he's asked a very pertinent question. And I think it's a really telling question, but I think what's even more telling is his answer. And the question that is asked of him is that, would you do it again? And I think his answer is really telling.
If you faced the same situation again, would you do it again?
Yeah, totally. I would not be able to live with myself if I didn't do anything in that situation. Someone got hurt. I would feel guilty for the rest of my life. And I think I'm in a position, and all people, if they're in a position to help, should always help. I think that's the New York thing to do. It's the American thing to do.
The fact that he said, yeah, totally, right? There was no time to think about it. He's like, yeah, totally, 100%. I don't know about you, but I think there is, in every person's life, if given an opportunity to change one little thing that, could have had a negative impact on their life or someone else's, I think we all have something that, if given the opportunity, we would change 100%. We're not even talking about to the point of someone's life perishing. We're talking about maybe little things, something half or way less severe than that. This man, Penny, willfully took the life of Neely. And he says without hesitation that totally, yeah, he would do it again. He didn't even, as far as try and hedge his answer by saying, you know what, I wish my actions didn't, have this man die. I wish he didn't perish from this. I wish he was still alive. Maybe we can sit down and talk. I wish he'd gotten help. Nothing. He didn't say any of that. All he said was, yeah, totally. And then went on to justify and validate his actions by saying he would feel guilty if somebody had gotten hurt. Someone did get hurt. Like, I don't know how detached from reality you have to be. How inhumane you have to be to say something like that. When you have someone's son, someone's cousin, someone's relative, someone's brother who's no longer here.
And you would feel guilty if someone got hurt. No one got hurt to begin with. He wasn't hurting anyone. Neely wasn't hurting anyone. He didn't assault not one person on that train. No one. Now you may not have liked how he was behaving, but that's shoot. I don't like how January 6th people were behaving. But according to those on the right, that was a tourist attraction. Okay, they're innocent. Hey, I want you to see just the absolute dehumanizing that is happening to Black people. That is what's happening. And this is what the right is promoting. This is what the right wants. They want youth like this to be absolutely relentless, to have no remorse, none whatsoever. To the point where he says, yeah, totally, I would feel guilty if someone got hurt. He feels no remorse for what he did. None. That a life was taken, that a life was lost. All the people who constantly want to talk about pro-life, 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 they don't care. I mean, this answer makes that perfectly clear. That they just want to, as I say, the lineage of evil, kill, steal, and destroy. That this man feels nothing for the life that was taken. Nothing. He didn't even mention his name. In my argument, when I was talking about Democrats and messaging, I don't know how you message that. How do you message someone like that? I don't know. I can't think of any type of marketing plan, any type of strategy that would change such a callous heart like that. Someone who is cold, just filled with hate like that. So they don't even see you, they don't even see your humanity. I don't know how you message those people. And if the right is to galvanize even more people, then it's really going to be up to the Democrats to stop that. That's really who it's going to be up to. There is no more blaming the right, blaming this. You have got to get your stuff in order. That reticle will be on you. I know it's very much like, well, I'm not Black, I'm cool and everything. You know, this had nothing to do with me. I wouldn't be in this predicament. But best believe you will. You 100% will. If you're not a part of the cult, you are already in that predicament. You already have a reticle on you. It just hasn't gotten to you yet. But it's coming. And I think people need to take this serious. Because this answer it took me, it was shocking to me. The fact that you wouldn't say, hey, I feel bad for, that the person's life was lost. Something to that nature of feeling bad that even if you felt you were protecting the people on the train, right? That there was someone's life that's no longer with us. That this person perished due to your actions. I think his words and actions are absolutely disgusting and appalling. And unfortunately, I don't believe there's enough Americans who feel that way. So moving on to the next 4 years, it's about to get scary, very frightening for a lot of people. Anyways, guys, that's the video. Let me know what you guys think. Whether or not, I don't know. I don't know what the other side can believe of this. I know that they believe that he's a hero and he's a good guy, but they say that of every person who happens to take the life of a Black person. Always. And when you actually have a criminal, such as Ashley Babbitt, who's the bad guy? Who's the criminal in that case? The Black officer. So I don't know how you reach someone like that. I don't know how you message to people like that. The only message that I think would resonate with them is a message of hate, but a message of hate towards the people that they hate, which happens to be you and I. So it's unfortunate, but something has got to be done. We can no longer be incompetent. Either the left has got to be on point, or we're all going to suffer the consequences of that. That's what's going to happen, where this country is going to be taken over by hatred and incompetence. Then we get a full-on idiocracy more than what it is already. Nevertheless, if you happen to disagree, you know where to find me. Friday through Sunday disagreement.
So you know what? This bespeaks of the underlying hate, distrust, vindictiveness, and the predictive nature of white people. They have no empathy, especially for Black people. You heard him. He'd do it again. He'd do it again. He'd do it again with no problem. Never mentioning this young man's name, saying that if he did it again, he would have probably just allowed him to live and allow the people to do the police, not him, the police to do his job. There was another guy on the train trying to get him to let go. He just didn't let go because he in actuality, wanted to kill him. And in reality, knew he would probably get away with it. And in reality, white media would protect him. And now we have Trump, and if I'm not mistaken, Elon Musk taking him to a football game, while the person who he killed is in the ground, cold, dead.
Who's
And the
taking
father
who to a
comes.
football game?
I'm sorry?
Who's taking who to a football game?
Trump and Elon Musk are taking Penny to a football game.
Oh man.
So, you know, where is the justice? There is none. There's just us and there's justice. And it's just us. And this is the reason why I say fuck all white folks. They don't give a fuck. Not only about us and other people, but even about themselves. There are more white people killing white people than black people killing black people. If you can wrap your head around that. Hold on, let me see. I want to play this one, and then I'm going to cut back, and we can have a little conversation after this one. Hold on. I'll be right back.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Ever so often you get clips of information where you see someone dropping a truth B-O-M-B, and it really touches your core in a way that some clips just don't do. Especially when it comes to, you know, putting the truth out there about the history of our people in this country, the things that we have had to endure, the stuff that happens to people who are the perpetrators, who can't see themselves. They seem to can't understand why we say the things that we say, why we feel the way that we feel. In this video, this man is going to drop a truth B-O-M-B, and he leaves the room speechless. These people, they can't say anything. When he says what he says, there is nothing they can say to refute his words. Because every word of it, every bit of it was the truth, right? So I want you to look at this video, and of course, it doesn't matter what their facial expressions look like, but you can definitely tell that they are having a hard time accepting or dealing with the truth, because they kind of sit there kind of dry and drab and silent, right? No round of applause. You might get one or two here and there sometimes, but for the most part, it just falls on deaf ears, because that's what America does, right? He's going to remind them of how they were towards so-called Black people and how they've been towards everybody else. He's going to remind them of that. Take a listen at this very powerful drop the mic speech. And of course, you know, I will be right back.
Solo necesitas el nombre y la visión de tu proyecto para dar el primer paso. El dominio perfecto te espera. Regístralo y crea tu web.
My dear Nana was 101 when she died. My great-grandfather just died 3 weeks ago. He was 100. He remembers fighting alongside white veterans in World War II. He remembers coming back and seeing his white veterans get home and land and pensions, and the door being slammed in his face. And we are going to say that America that says liberty and justice for all, that's okay. Get over it, keep it moving. But we have to hear never forget for everyone else's tragedy. And as far as from where reparations will come, I need people to stop thinking it's going to come from their tax dollars. Look at all the trillions that America spends right now. We talk about inflation, the invisible tax. We have something called the PPP loans. Do we remember the PPP loans? America spent $6 trillion on PPP loans. You know what they just did? They canceled all of it.
and we didn't even know. America gave the corporations, the banks alone, $29 trillion. You know what they did with that? They canceled all of it. So let's stop acting as if America is as hamstrung by debt as they want you to think. Because when America wants to pay for something, they find a way to do it. And truth be told, the corporations, again, aren't hurting. The defense manufacturers aren't hurting. It's only Americans who are hurting. And that is a choice. We are more for choice. That's why we're running for office, because we know this country can do better. So I refuse to accept that this country can't do right by a people they've wronged for centuries. And I refuse to accept that any justice-minded person thinks that's the right thing to do.
Okay, this brother, he laid it all out. I mean, there's nothing left to say, right? But of course, you know, I have a bunch I can say about it because I speak about these things all of the time. Here in America, they have a history, very well documented history, a history that has crept into the present, right? It has crept into the present in a way that we can identify with because the same things continue to happen, right? He talked about how his grandfather went over there, was in the military just like everybody else, did the same things that everybody else did, but when they got back, they had money and land and all kinds of opportunities waiting for them, but they did not give the same opportunities to his grandfather. This is how America has been. They make promises, they break them. They make treaties, they break them. So what does it say about a person who breaks promises and treaties? It means that they are a cotton-picking liar, right? And there is a history of this sort of thing, a history of it. This is not new to us. We've known it. We've been talking about it. And just like he said, he pointed out the fact that they tell us to get over it, while we have to listen to them memorialize everybody else and everyone else's incidents and happenings. They memorialize it. They celebrate it, right? And we have to hear about it and deal with it too. And they want us to put some respect on it, while at the same time telling us the things and the troubles and the woes that we have gone through as a people don't matter. Telling us to get over it. Even going as far as to tell us to go back where we came from. But they forget how we got here, right? But let me back it up just a minute about how we got here. That's neither here nor there, because before they got here, there were some other folk that were already here. Some other folk that just so happened to be our relatives. The children of Africa. The children of the tribes of Ham. That's right. So even the Native Americans, the so-called black folks, before they landed here, before Europeans landed here, those Native Americans, those black Africans, they were already here, right? And so this man, the truth that he dropped, it was like an atomic BOMB of truth that could not be denied, left the room silent. These people were speechless. They cannot refute it. There's nothing to be refuted because I didn't detect any lies, right? So America has racked up a bill that they refuse to pay, while at the same time they're paying all these trillions of dollars for this and for that and for this. But when it comes to doing right by so-called black people, giving us what we deserve, reparations for what we've been through at their hands, they don't want to hear it because they are an unrepentant nation.
Here's the big secret about women. We want you to flirt with us. We even want you to get sexual with us, desire us. But here's the thing about women and flirting that every man needs to know, especially you. The way women flirt is totally different from the way that men flirt. So flirting with women the way you want to be flirting with will fail 99.9% of the time. For flirting to be effective for women, you have to flirt the right way that makes sense to her. So what is this right way to flirt with a woman? The right way is that she feels about you, not thinks something about you. I'll repeat that because it's very important. Women want to feel something about you, not think something about you when they flirt. This is where most guys they logically try to trigger a woman.
An unrepentant nation, they are not sorry. Many have a reprobate nature, and they don't even fear the Most High God, as the world calls him, as they call him. They don't fear him. They think he's a joke. They think that they can do whatever they want to do, and that God in heaven is going to excuse all of their wicked deeds with no repentance. They've even, I can't even say they've tricked themselves into believing that repentance is saying I'm sorry. I can't even say that they've tricked themselves, because guess what? The same Bible that they use in the courtrooms to pray upon, it actually says that the Most High himself said he was going to send a strong delusion. So there are a lot of strong delusions floating around out here, right? And they were sent by none other than the Most High. So if anybody's sitting up deluded about how he's going to deal with the wickedness of this world, that's on you, because he told you. He said, I'm going to send a strong delusion. So what you need to be doing is making sure that you're not sitting up under one, making sure that you are doing everything that you have to do to be righteous. But that's too much like right for a lot of people. They are happy in their wickedness. They want to keep on digging their heels in deeper and deeper and deeper in wickedness. They're going deeper in debt. Their soul is getting deeper and deeper in debt that they will never be able to repay. Number one, because they refuse to repent. Anyway, I'm done. Share your thoughts on this in the comment section below. As always, keep it tight, keep it right.
All right, you heard him. Let me get on back here. What do you think?
Hey, man. What we go through every day, bro. Ain't nothing changed. You know, something that's really been on my mind a lot lately is this separation that I thought would be not so where it is today, and that's between Africans and people from this side who are the natives of what we now know as America. Any historian worth his salt knows that there are Native Americans here who have no ancestry to Africa whatsoever. And cranial studies prove that. So if you want to start saying that all of us are from Africa, no, we're not. Because the first civilization that I know of in existence, at least in the last maybe 100, 150,000 years that I can speak of, is Lemuria. After people left Lemuria, they went to Atlantis. And we all know the story of Atlantis and so on and so forth, whether you know it or not. And then Gaia broke up, and Pangea broke up, and everything became its own country. How people got there, I don't know. I'm not trying to say I know it all. So we have to make a distinction at this point, because when this becomes back ours again, we have to have the first rights and the first rights of refusal to any outsiders, just like anybody else should have to their own land and their own resources. So that's what I got from this. I know it's a little off topic. I don't mean to take it far away, but this is open mic, and that's just something I wanted to throw into the equation, because that time is coming very shortly, bro. And we need to have our minds open for anything to happen. And for the most part, good. I'm not saying it in a negative way. That's my
All right, let's go on to the next one.
Okay.
And go back to the share screen. This one's 15 minutes, and I'll be right back.
Why can't you mobilize your own resources rather than extend your hands for handouts and charity? Is there a way of mobilizing these resources in the continent? How do you mobilize these resources? Can you mobilize the resources of Niger that are going to Europe, uranium, and what have you?
When we talk about neocolonialism, I always remember these words of the Zambian called Simon Kapwepwe. Kapwepo said, this colonizer who has become a neo-colonizer will one day come as a foreign investor.
What is the reality? I don't know any time in our history that the Chinese government overthrew an African government. I don't know of any instance in our history where Chinese assistance to Africa or any other country has been dependent on the people's choice of a type of government and so on. That's the difference.
Welcome to Drive for Africa, the channel dedicated to unveiling the stories, voices, and visions of Africa's past, present, and future. In this compelling episode, we delve into a profound dialogue featuring some of the continent's most revered leaders, including the legendary Patrice Lumumba and the transformative figure Isaias Afwerki, among others. These visionary leaders come together to illuminate the enduring shadows of neocolonialism that still looms over Africa, dissecting its insidious impact on our nations and people. Let's begin.
Let's get out of this cycle.
This is how to get sick fast. This is Baba. These balloons represent your internal order.
First and foremost, okay? I would like to focus on my own issue. Now people are talking about the resources of the continent. 60% of this endowment, 20% of this endowment. Why can't you mobilize your own resources rather than extend your hands for handouts and charity? Is there a way of mobilizing these resources in the continent? How do you mobilize these resources? Can you mobilize the resources of Niger that are going to Europe, uranium, and what have you? What about the mineral resources of this continent? Are you mobilizing these resources for the development of the continent, for climate change? Where are these resources? Everybody's talking about their achievements in their own locality, in their own national borders, without even addressing the real issues challenging this continent. Talk about the continent's challenge and try to find solutions for this challenge, okay? We're talking about climate change, we're talking about resources, you're talking about so many things. Don't divert focus on non-issues, okay? Now, do your homework, come up with a definition of your goals and objectives, strategize, go for detailed plans, and then come to mobilize resources so that you implement your programs. Otherwise, I don't want to waste your time and waste my time talking about our achievements in Eritrea. Try to talk about some of the issues mentioned on this summit. These billions coming to this continent from anywhere, Europe, Americas, or any other place, you are inviting intervention in your own affairs. And this money coming from there, billions and billions, will be cycled back there. Make sure that you mobilize your own resources so that you can be enabled to benefit from resources coming from outside. The promises of billions, we're talking about corrupt governments and comparing private sector. The private sector who is accountable government.
Here's the big secret about women. We want you to flirt with us. We
Hold
even
on.
want you to get
Non-corrupt government that will use national resources for the development of the majority. It's not a matter of polarizing the private sector and the public sector. These classical arguments about the private sector, the public sector, doesn't make sense at all. It's out of context. We need to be focused on this matter. We can't blame governments and bring non-governmental organizations to manage our affairs. That is phenomenal in Africa. Go everywhere. Non-governmental organizations are managing government and discrediting government and replacing them with what they call private sector. Can you imagine this makes sense to anyone? Now talk about serious things, okay? You want to implement programs, articulate your goals and objectives in the first place, okay? Strategize on how you can achieve these goals and objectives. Then go for detailed plans, sectoral plans or industrial plans, and then mobilize resource for that. Give these plans and the resources to reliable hands, accountable hands.
We have been trying to develop the media, as part of our effort to tell the true African story. It's a story of slavery, the transatlantic slave trade. It's a story of classical colonialism. And today, it's a story of neo-colonial exploitation disguised colonialism.
You talk about neo-colonialism. If you read what is being said on some international media, that means China. They say China is trying to colonize Africa under disguise of economic cooperation. So what do you see as real neo-colonialism?
We have to understand that we are discussing this within the context of an anti-Chinese hysteria,
yes,
which is deliberately fueled by Western government, Western intelligence agencies, and their media. There's a vigorous anti-Chinese hysteria. That's the backdrop. What is the reality? I don't know any time in our history that the Chinese government overthrew an African government. I don't know of any instance in our history where Chinese assistance to Africa or any other country has been dependent on the people's choice of a type of government. And so that's the difference. The West pretends to be giving us aid, but it's always conditioned on many things.
We need to continue to strengthen our good relations with the neighboring states. We're seeing more and more good relations like that. But one more thing, you cannot become successful by just relying on somebody. It's not enough to just have good relations with others. We need to be able to become self-sustainable in terms of our economy, in terms of our technologies. This is something I spoke about at my address to the Federal Assembly, and in the May decrees as well. We have key goals in terms of demographics, in terms of the economy, in terms of addressing ecological, environmental issues, improving the lives of people, improving the environments for businesses and for individuals so that they could have a good paying, honest jobs. And of course, we need to make sure that Russia's development of Russia's work in terms of developing our technologies is also a priority for it.
Has allegedly the wealthiest resources of all the continents of the world. It is also the home of the poorest people on the globe. That disconnect is not a good disconnect, and we need to work to change that disconnect. So when we're then talking about the need for self-reliance, it is because particularly important is to recognize that we have the resources, we have the youngest population in the world, 25% of our population is under the age of 19. It's a huge amount of resource, of potential strength. And once we do the educating, we find the means to do the educating of this population and giving it skills, then we are putting Africa on a path of very, very strong economic growth. We can replicate what has been done in Asia if, like them, we maintain the discipline and the correct analysis of what we need to do to move our continent forward. But really, they've been able in Asia, in a generation, to transform the lives of hundreds of millions of Chinese, hundreds of millions of Indians. Why can we not replicate that same phenomenon on our continent? We can do it. And I have no doubt that those of you here can make a big input into that transformation that we're all looking for. But when we're saying this, and it's very important that we recognize it, we're not saying we're turning our back on the world. No, we can't do that. We live on the same planet. We need the association and the partnership with countries like France, with the technologies that they have developed here, the savoir-faire in many, many areas. All those things are matters that we can profitably associate and benefit from. But all of it, always, from an understanding that it is for us to define the relationship that we want with the rest of the world.
This is why fighting colonialism and neo-colonialism becomes very difficult. The neo-colonizer has also recruited people within your ranks. They have trained your army. They have indoctrinated your army. So you fight and move 2 steps forward, but you are moved several steps backwards. And that is why the fight is not easy. The neo-colonialist keeps on changing shape, keeps on recruiting people from within our ranks, and there is no shortage of people who want to be recruited for 30 pieces of silver. And that is why the fight is long, painful, and not easy to win.
Would you like to learn to play worship piano? Well, I'm a former Nashville pro, and I've developed a system.
You know, when we talk about neo-colonialism, I always remember these words of the Zambian called Simon Kapwepwe. Kapwepwe said, this colonizer who has become a neo-colonizer will one day come as a foreign investor. And that is exactly what happened.
I think we're back to the beginning, bro.
The French one, which is more vicious and more open, they don't even pretend. There are also other streams of neocolonialism, but the French one is the worst. Because the French never left. And where they were kicked out, as in Guinea they destroyed things, as in Algeria they destroyed things, as in Mali they destroyed things. But theirs is the more obvious and more vicious because they control all levers. They control not only your politics, they control your economics, they control your resources, they control your education. So their brand of neocolonialism is the most vicious. The other countries, such as the former colonies of Britain, what they did is that they leave you to run your politics. But even that they influence in some ways. But how do they now remain in your system? They remain in your system by controlling your economy in different areas. If you look at former British colonies, you'll discover they still control your agriculture. They control your pharmaceutical industry. Until very recently, they controlled your banking system. They control your intelligence. They still have your military bases. They train your army. So they appear to have gone, but they are not too far away. And of course, with the new entrance into the arena, such as the United States of America, they control you through different ways, like their cultural centers and NGOs. The NGOs are not innocent in this regard. These are Trojan horses. They continue to control your so-called civil society, so that you have a cadre of Africans who get money from non-governmental organizations, intelligent individuals, but their only claim to fame is that they write proposals and they write reports and they send them to whoever financed them. He or she who pays the piper calls the tune. And the funding is based on what is important to those countries. When it was human rights, they tell you, you deal with human rights, then we'll fund you. When it is multi-party democracies, they tell you, talk about multi-party democracy and we'll fund you. When it is climate change, they tell you, talk about climate change and we'll fund you. When it is LGBTQI, they tell you, talk about LGBTQI and we'll fund you. So that you see that there is always something. The neocolonialist is always hatching plots and getting our men and women, particularly those who are intellectually endowed, to engage in these activities because they know that if they control the scream of the society, then everybody will fall in place. Sometimes I imagine to myself the neo-colonialists in the inner sanctum sitting down and saying, we must not allow this to happen. Let us come and hatch another plot. And they're always hatching another plot. And we're always falling into the same environment through these plots. And we are always losing the battle. Even when we think we are winning, we are losing. Because they know what they are doing. And they are several years ahead of us in terms of planning. This is the problem. They are involved in research at all levels, and we are kept squeezed. As they said, as I always remember these words, iconic words of George Floyd when he was being killed and they stepped on his neck and says, "I can't breathe." The African can't breathe because the knees of the neo-colonialists are on his neck, on her neck. Can't breathe, is gasping for air. That is the state in which we are.
This will be the next one, but hold on, let me see what he's So any words about that?
Not really, man. He said it like it's supposed to have been said. He said it exactly what it's supposed to have been said, man. Like I always tell people, what I can't say. You found your next thing yet?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I just
real quick. I read Confessions of an Economic Hitman,
right,
in the early 2000s, and it said it all. In the beginning, they send the businessmen. They're the soft spies. They infiltrate, and then they send in the spies. They infiltrate, and if they can't get a rebellion going or a deal made the way they want to, then they'll just fund the opposition and cause a revolt in your country.
Right.
Over that, and then install a puppet, and then they got their mind that's gonna get them $20 billion in profit.
Right.
Right. And their investment is to pay maybe $1 billion or $2 billion to the installed president so he could keep his royal guard and his family tight, and everybody else in the country, fuck y'all.
Right. Let me say this about what I saw in the video, what stuck out, and that is the internal use of our own or Africa's resources. Like I said many times on this show and on other shows, we don't need white folks for shit. They need us. And once we see that, this mind trick Jedi move that they're trying to do, our weak move, only to cloud your vision as to what is going on and what can be done. It is if we try to do it, it can't get done, but if they do it, they get done the way it's supposed to be done, and that's not true. So, in a nutshell, I know damn well that all they trying to do, white people, are getting up in our bed nice and comfortable, and we are trying to fight with them with the cover and the bed sheets and the pillows and all of that, not knowing all you got to do is just put a bullet to their head and talk about, or to a gun to their head and talk about either you get your ass up out that bed or you get this bullet in your brain. It's just that simple. So let me see which one I'm gonna do. Yeah, because I really don't want to be here all night. But either I'm gonna do these two, or I'm gonna do the Jacobites of England. Yeah, let me just show you about the Jacobites of England. It's Scotland. I'm sorry, Ireland and England. So these are people who were black, who were in cahoots, more or less, with the so-called pale skin that we called Tamils back in the day, against the bourgeois class of France and England and Scotland or whatever. As you may know, King James IV was the king of Scotland, England, and Ireland. And to make a long story short, they were talking about the Jacobite infiltration. I don't want to call it infiltration. The Jacobite rebellion that did not allow these so-called bourgeois people to do what they were trying to do against King James. And so King James kicked them out of England, Scotland, and Ireland, and sent their asses over to America. This is how Jack Johnson came over here with the Monmouth Rebellion, which is somewhat and pretty much similar to the Jacobite situation. So the Jacobites were Jews, but with a, I guess, a Christian flavor to it. But the idea was still the same. You don't go anything and do anything against the king. And he proved that to be the case. And a lot of so-called Etamahus who were the serfs that was associated with the land of England. And this is where you get the land. This is where you get the term landlord from. And then when they sold their land, the serf, the white clear-skinned Tamahus came with the land. So they really, we had them wrapped up. The minority black population of England and Europe were ruling over the vast majority. And you got to remember that there were two waves of these heathen beasts, better known as white people, that crossed over the Hadrian Wall into that would be the Eastern Holy Roman Empire that got pushed into the Western part of Europe, better known as France. So the papacy, or the black papacy, went from Rome to France. So that's what that video is about. So if you wanted to check it out, please do so. It's on YouTube under the name the Jacobites of Scotland, Ireland, and Jacob. Really good video. Short video, but I really don't want to be here for all night trying to go through these. But it's a great video nonetheless. So, oh Jesus, I don't want to be here either. Let me see. It says France's economy collapses after. Well, we pretty much know what that's all about. The Burkina Faso president Traore 18 times, and trying to kill him 18 times. So if you want to check,
last I heard it was 20.
I'm sorry?
Last I heard it was 20.
20. Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. They probably do it every other man, they could pay for a cool out of pocket, basically, man. You know how many people would bet when there's a power struggle in Africa with the way the mentality of the people is and how hungry they are, because it's usually based on tribal lines.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So that's what this video is about. It's 36 minutes long. I don't want to be here trying to go through that. But if you want, you're talking about Burkina Faso just kicking the shit out of France, out of the Sahel state. And they're struggling, economically speaking. And France can't do without black folks.
Yeah. Listen, the best yellow cake, uranium, and I said this in the article. Right.
Yeah, I'm about to say that. France was, I'm sorry, Canada is paying $200 a pound or whatever the hell it is versus 80 cents for the Sahel state.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't that a bit?
And that's still a deal.
Huh?
And that's still a deal.
Yeah, that's a steal. 80 cents versus what Canada is paying, $200. That's a steal. I would piss in the face of Macron with his man wife. That's a man. but anyway, let's move on, and then we'll wrap it up with these last three. So what I want to do is to cover the Pope Francis shocks America, but you missed it. Let's get it on, and I'll be right back.
Correct these issues because it's about gaining our land back. It's about making our people aware of what the real problems are. What happened to our people? Because we know for a fact that it was a set group of people that taught us all lies when it comes to the so-called American history. Top to bottom, we were led astray. We were told that everything about us initiated in Africa, and that's a lie. That is one of the biggest lies ever in American history when it comes to our people. But the great thing about it is that the majority of you all, the majority of the Niji are fully aware. And the reason why I say Niji is because it's a respectable way of saying my buddy, my relative, like we are one with each other as far as bloodline connection. You are family to me. So that's why I'm considering everyone Niji, my Niji, as far as them being indigenous to this land, and even those that are of the surrounding islands are my Niji. And what I mean by that is, of course, we got the Hawaiians, and we got all the Fijis. Notice how they're the Fijis, okay? But anyway, and then we have the what some people may call the Caribbean Islanders, but we got to call them for who they are, like call them by their tribal affiliation. Like, it's time now. I think we should all consider ourselves by who we are. And some of the terminology that you can implement inside of your vocabulary could be based upon the tribe that you're affiliated with. As far as the bloodline and what we represent is concerned, the time has come where now we have to showcase, and what I mean by we is the Niji, we have to showcase a sense of urgency here.
Produced by Dane Calloway and Tanisha Calloway. Watch this brand new documentary, Mother Rosa, right now at DaneMakeYouThink.com.
Some of you all may remember that time where I went live about the Pope, okay? Now, I was trying to inform people then, hey, listen, we got to pay attention to this because we got to do something about it. All right, so the name of the live stream is called The Vatican Wants to Return Land Back to the Indigenous People of America. Now, this is where the Pope, rescinded the doctrine of discovery. And what I was trying to inform the people then is based off of that move. Now that rescinds or retracts everything or every law that was passed down. Listen, that retracts, that rescinds every law that was passed down I'm talking about from doctrine and discovery on up. Okay. The problem is that the land is sitting there waiting for us to reclaim it. The reason why that's an issue is because our people are unaware that we have to reclaim it. Because remember how we've been indoctrinated into thinking that somebody is going to come and save us. Again, this is not a knock to nobody, but just think about this, okay? We could go on a spiritual note with it, but I want you to think about it, like mentally grasp what that means. That's telling you to sit back and wait on somebody else to do the job for you that you're supposed to be doing on your own, for your own people, for your own kind, for your kinfolk, for your Niji. The only people that are going to get up and do something for us is us. Now, with that Pope sitting back, like, okay, look, we were sending this, we retracting that, blah, 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 blah. It's on us now. My job is to inform the people why that is so critical, why that particular point is so critical to note, because once we regain control over the land, we control all of the waters. Now, I mean, we are ones with the waters. I mean, this is how we travel. I mean, just keep in mind, if we get control over the land, we get control over the water. This is the reason why these foreign governments came over here. And their main goal was to take over the trade. And that particular trade had to deal with the waters, right? Because you can't trade with other countries of other continents without controlling the water lines. The water lines will be the streams, or what we would call the avenues, to get to these particular locations without having to sacrifice their lives by coming across or going across the Pacific or the Atlantic by forcing themselves into an ocean gyre, and they could be lost at sea. So they had to travel particular routes, okay? And I explained on numerous occasions what these routes were. The number one main route was the Mississippi River. Still, this government wanted the Mississippi River to be redirected so they could have more control over how the trade was being conducted. Now, when I say foreign government, you got to understand what that consists of. These are many foreigners that looked at what our people were already doing. This is the reason why they're going to call certain people that you know of, that you could recall, like Columbus, an explorer, right? But an explorer is a what? A spy, an agent set to look and observe and write it down and report it back to who employed him. Like, for example, Columbus. The word Columbus, it has a deeper meaning. Now, if we look at the definition of the word itself, I believe that it's going to be the Oxford Dictionary that's going to say America was discovered accidentally by a great seaman, okay, named Columbus, right? Listen, the word Columbus consists of two words, column and bus. Column is a vertical structure. It usually consists of a base, like a beam or support. Remember that day when I was showing y'all the Baltimore Bridge and how that column shouldn't have been knocked over structurally? So vertical structure, column, base. It stands alone. It could also be a monument. So it could also be referred to as a capital. Column. Okay, now the word bus, we already know. A long, vehicle, motor vehicle, transporting passengers or carrying passengers as a form of transportation. In the 1960s, it was a way to transport students for integration. Right now, 2024, what Governor Abbott do in Texas? He put them foreigners that was crossing over the borders on buses and sent them to New York, right? Now, in a sense, a regular series of newspapers or magazine articles, it can also be considered a means of transportation. Remember, we went over this before, like a trans, drop you in a trance, like if you're reading a book, if you're watching a movie or film, transportation, sending you elsewhere. Now, a column bus is also the movement of a formation. It's basically telling you or forcing you to do something. So movement of a formation as like, okay, troops, like military troops, right? They got to get in formation. Attend hut, right? Forward, march. They got to move in formation, right? That's a column bus or a vehicle, like vehicles. When we, our vehicles, if you're going in one direction, you have to stay on that right side of the street. The other one's going the opposite direction, has to stay on the opposite side, going the opposite. Y'all get me? And watch all elements follow one behind the other. So the column is only a fraction of something that if it continues to reoccur, the hope is that the outcome will mimic an outcome that is already in existence. The hope is that the outcome will mimic an outcome that is already in existence. That's what they were here to do, to look at us, study us. Keep in mind, we had the Republic. Remember, I went over this before, how to create a country or how to create your own country. In fact, my wife and I came out with a book. It's called Fixing America's Broken Promise. We went over that a little bit deeper. Get that book if you didn't already, Fixing America's Broken Promise. We're telling you how they did it because we already had it done. So to go back to Columbus, that's why that's not his real name, by the way. Okay, that was his title. A lot of these people who were given these names were given titles, rank. Listen, remember we talked about rank, title, like status, black and white? It all correlates. It's all going to line up. Black and white is a what? A status, a title. A rank is going to line right back up, ladies and gentlemen. It won't ever fail. Now, that also means that you have to do something. If you're giving a title, you're given a job. Like what? Employees. They give you a title of what? For example, you get the assistant manager and whatever, associated manager, general manager, regional manager, blah, 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 blah. You get my point. So if we were given, and ain't no if, we were given status, title, rank, then you know that this is only one thing. It only means one thing. This means that
Hold on.
this government is acting as if it is a government, a governing body of a particular people, because it's a corporation. Only a corporation can hand titles to certain people in order to do a job, correct? Everybody out here that works for someone is working for a corporation, not necessarily an individual. Technically, the only individual that they're working for is for themselves in order for they can take care of themselves, and if they, have a family that's associated with them. But realistically, you barely see the owners of that corporation. Quasi corporation, acting as if. That's what quasi means. Look how it all line up. This is how we know this government is de facto. We'll come back to that. Democracy, church, and state. We're going to come back to that. Church and state is the same thing. We're going to come back to that. They always promote, it's a democracy. Before democracy, we're going to come back to that. Because before democracy, they demoed. You listening? Before they demoed what they wanted done, which was to bring church and state as one, there was always a republic. This time we got together. If you repeat, you rewind, republic, what are you doing? You're bringing the people back to what it was already once before. Is that simple? De jure. We went over de jure before, right? De jure. That means lawful means. Like they say, the majority of this stuff that they did was under the color of law. But if it's de facto, listen, and it is, and if it's quasi, and it is, that means every single thing they did in law was done fraudulently. Keep in mind, we can point to who they tried to mark or mimic, to go back to Columbus, who they tried to mimic. We're going to say it was the French government. We're going to say it was the British government. But wait a minute. The French and the British weren't speaking English. The French and the British were not speaking English. That landmass wasn't called England. It was England, where the Angles resided. They were speaking a totally different language. By the time the Norman French got there, changed them from the Anglo-Saxons to the Norman French or Anglo-Normans, took over Breton, B-R-E-T-O-N, they were still speaking a different language. The Saxons was his home group at first. Many other tribes were amongst them, and not one of them spoke English, Middle English, or Old English. They're going to say Jesus of Lazarus. Okay, all right, so you got somebody that you was worshiping over there, right? All right, okay, the Savior over here predated yours. Those foreigners needed our help in order to come out of what they were already accustomed with amongst their own lives. Slavery, Slavs. They came over here and became free whites. Free from what? Free from who? Free from what they were already accustomed to. That's why they had to sit back and learn what we were doing, so they can mark it, mimic it. This was already in there.
Don't you see the black people on top of the white people? The blacks are on top of the whites. The blacks on top of the whites. Or the Tomahawks, or whatever the motherfucking name you want to think of. This is our ancestors. These were our slaves. They have always been our slaves. Don't you ever forget that. There's a book called America. Look at this. The black people on top of the white people. The black people on top of the white people. This is why they hated us so much, because of what we did to them. Believe me or not, it is true. We separated them from their family, killed them, took skin off of their backs, King James used their skin off their back literally to form his Bible and book binders and door panels. You see the black people on top of the white people, and the white people are carrying the black people everywhere they want to fucking go. This is why they hate you niggas. I talk about this in my book, man. You might not want to believe it. You might want to think that all niggas are just slaves and bums and dummies. No. Let's continue on.
Writings are where they got the majority of these traditional ways of civilization from. This was already in their writings of not only just literature, but legislation.
Hold on. Get rid of this noise.
I gave
Hey, brother Isaiah.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear that way before what we know to be slavery today, and I'm talking about the transatlantic one, and even before that, what the Arabs did to what is now known as Eritreans and Ethiopians and the early Egyptians. Before that, we used to treat them like less than cattle. And they actually turned it around on us. Because remember, when they came back west from Eden, east of Eden, they had lost all their senses and became like primates, like basically like chimps and gorillas. It is crazy.
Yeah.
We talked about that a little while ago. I wanted to say that then, but you was rolling and I didn't want to interrupt. So
no. That is true.
Uh-huh.
So what we do on this show is to reveal the truth. I don't give a fuck about your feelings and emotions. I don't give a fuck about my feelings and emotions or nobody else's feelings and emotions. We put all the facts on the table and wouldn't let it be what it's gonna be. Because you cannot hide the truth forever. These people are fucking animals. They just wearing Gucci belts and shoes and Louis Vuitton pants and shirts and shit. I don't know what the fuck. But they are still uncivilized. They don't know what the fuck the word means. So let us finish that up and then we'll go to the next.
a quote after quote after quote of top people telling you where the language, the culture, the traditions, the spirituality, the music, the trade, all of that, where it came from. It was always here. The crops, the minerals, the spices. Oh, it get deep. Look, all the way down to that roof that's over their little pretty little head, huh? All the way down to that roof that's right now over their pretty little head, because they ain't had none of that. Those foreigners still needed help to build up Rome, right? If Rome was in ruin, wait a minute, you ain't know how to build none of this stuff up. And then when you put it back up, you had images like this inside of your museums, inside of your little beautiful architecture and all of these beautiful coliseums and all the rest of it.
And you see the red, white, and blue, this is where they get the color for America from. Red, white, and blue. Those are our colors. Ain't got shit to do with these motherfucking wannabe animals that we call white today.
Oh, wait a minute. You thanking the people that helped you. Oh, that's what you was doing. So now you want to come over here and state we make America? Oh, but we help Rome. We help the Dutch. We help the Germans. We help you go down the list. We help everybody. Matter of fact, the first people that was coming over here, remember I showed you, was Germans. And guess what? Them Germans was of color, right? Them Germans was of color and they was sticking by our side. They knew they needed our help and was willing to work for us. So when I tell you who the first slaves were, and I tell you was foreigners, and it didn't matter their skin complexion, that also goes for the so-called slave masters, you know, the one that hired them to work for them. In order for them folks to stay afloat, ain't gonna be no ifs, ands, or buts about it now. That's documented. They got us to thank for their well-being.
Don't that look like an albino, brother? I'm telling you, these motherfuckers come from Dravidian albinos, man. The gig is up. The truth is out. Fuck all that bullshit. Let's continue.
Is that enough?
Make America great again? Still to this day, nobody asked him when America was ever great. But when you think about it, think about it.
Man, America has always been great under our control. It has been the shit, had gone to the shit, because these motherfuckers don't know what the hell they doing.
No, I don't agree with you, brother. Check this out.
Go ahead, hold on. Hold on.
Sorry.
Well, hold on, let me get back to the screen. Go ahead. I'll mute you, sir.
I'm sorry, brother. I apologize, man.
Go ahead.
What I was saying was we have to understand when you have different wordings, you have to understand that means something different in law, like discovery. When we hear Christopher Columbus, who was an explorer, discovered America in 1492 when he sailed the ocean blue, blah, 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 on and on and on. That is the very foundation of the beginning of what we now call America, or this side of the world, whatever you want to call Western Hemisphere, what have you. But we also know in school, we were taught that in a sentence, if any part of the sentence is a lie, then the whole sentence is a lie. And if you want to start the foundation of what America is, it started off with something that's based on a lie in the language, because discovery, like he was saying, I talk about this a lot, the doctrine of discovery was rescinded. Qualified immunity in New York City was rescinded. So I would say some of the people in New York City, especially a lot of white folks who don't give a shit about none of us, are happy to see something like that, because it wasn't a cop that's going to have to pay his a pension off for the rest of your life for shooting some black kid. That's why you haven't heard of, if you notice, you haven't heard about police just shooting a black person for anything, you know, for being a suspect. It wasn't even the guy, that kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? You don't hear about that no more in New York because it got removed in 2021. Same thing with the doctrine of discovery, because like I've been telling y'all for a few years now, and not this audience because I haven't been on here for years, but I've been telling people that the doctrine of discovery was rescinded in last year in March 30th exact.
Right.
So we are sovereign people now, but in the era of restructuring, which is what Trump is an expert at, from going broke in the 80s and 90s when the Rothschilds was funding him to be who he is. Okay, now, so what I'm saying is we have to go through a transition period. So again, when I say we're going, like he said in the video, I related to a lot of it, and I thank you for it. We're going back to being, and I'm glad you played it before I said it. We're going back to being a republic by having the original Constitution reinstated. And of course, with us rising back to where we're going to be, all we need to do is reform it. We don't need to change much of it. We don't have to say we're better than white people. We can just take out the 3/4 clause. Things like that. You understand where I'm coming from? Because in actuality, the Constitution is based on the Iroquois Confederation. So all we have to do is bring it back to where it needs to be for it to be fair for whoever's here, if we decide to keep them here or allow them to stay, should I say. So that's what I got to say.
All right, enough said on that one.
Okay.
But now you got to remember too, back in Bush era, the last part of him, in the beginning of Obama, the Pope sent a letter to Bush and Obama, but they ignored it, saying that the land must be given back to the native people of America, which would have been us, and that the necessary gathering should have been started at that point, but they delayed it, and here come 9/11. I
Right.
mean, with the destruction of the Twin Towers and all of that.
Right.
But yeah, you want to make a comment on that?
Another comment. Let me show you another way they did it, and this is how people have to read events. Okay, it's not gematria, but check the trick bag. Now, do you remember maybe 2010, 11 in there around 10, 11 when the prince from England came to a net game and handed something to King James, aka LeBron James? Do you remember that? It was a
No,
big
I
deal
don't.
in New York.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
I was in New York at that time when it happened. Yeah, it was a big to do because the prince came from England and supposedly his first stop was to go watch that game in Brooklyn. Okay.
Right.
And meet King James there. And I believe, and I was saying this at the time, that was a changing of the guard at that time to let those who know how to read it, that the doctrine of discovery was going to be lifted so that the people were now sovereign. You get it?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, let's come to right now, today, yesterday, a day before. Do you know LeBron James has stepped away from playing for the Lakers?
LeBron James, what?
Has stepped away from playing for the Lakers.
No, he's still playing, isn't it?
Bro, this just happened yesterday or the day before.
Okay.
The mainstream media ain't reporting why. And it is believed because you know who Busby is, right?
Right.
Do you know who he is, Busby?
Yeah.
Okay, Busby is the hotshot attorney from Houston, Texas, that's in charge of the Diddy case.
Right.
And there's plenty of footage and recordings of LeBron saying ain't no party like a Diddy party, and we already
Right.
see the maid
Right.
form, and we already know he's associated with those people. So it is believed that the indictments or the sealed indictments are going to be unsealed, and we're going to start knowing exactly who was participating and how, and the footage
Right.
and testifying testimony or making deals and the rest of it. So I'm done. I yield back, brother.
Okay. So we got two more to go. Let me see what's this. They're pretty much the same, but I want to do this one with Brother Malcolm. Let's get started. Hold on, let me pull up share screen. All right, I'll be right back.
That never was a real serpent. It was not a real serpent that went into the garden. What's wrong? But as you know, the Bible is written in simple parables, and this serpent or snake is a symbol that's used to hide the real identity of the one that actually was. Who was the white man? Now, is this your standard teaching? Yes. It teaches us that the black man by nature is divine. Now, does it mean that the white man by nature is evil? By nature, he is other than divine. But now, does it mean evil? Can he do good? By nature, he is evil. He cannot do good. History is best qualified to reward all research, and we don't have any historic examples where we have found that they collectively, as a people, have done good. Do you teach them what you just said to me, that the white man is the symbol of evil? If you can go to any little Muslim child and ask him where is hell or who is the devil, and he wouldn't tell you that hell is down in the ground or that the devil is something invisible that you can't see. He'll tell you hell is right where he has been catching it, and he'll tell you the one who is responsible for him having received this hell is the devil. And he would say that this devil is the white man. Yes. Can a white man join your temple? You must have ever joined. If one came up and attempted to join, would you be allowed to come in and talk? No, sir. Why not? Well, that's one of the reasons why most people think that Mr. Muhammad teaches hate.
Design the perfect voice for your brand with 11 Labs. Change the way you record podcasts, voiceovers, and branded content with the #1 AI-powered voice generating technology. Stop searching for the perfect voice and stop wasting time re-recording take after take. Try 11 Labs for
Sorry about
free
that.
and
Hold
start
on.
elevating your.
If there is a rattlesnake here who has been fighting your brothers and your sisters, go and tell them that that's a rattlesnake, and all of the harm that has ever come to them has come to that particular source. Well, then that rattler will think that the warner will go back and tell the other snakes that this man is teaching hate, this man is teaching hate, but it's not hate. It's just that when you study people who have been harmed and discover the source of their injury, the source of all of the defects, and you begin to point out that source, it's not that you hate the source, but your love for your people is so intense, so great, that you must let them know what is wrong with them, what is the cause of their ills. And this is one of the basic factors I believe are when people think, or when the propaganda is put out, that Mr. Muhammad teaches hate. He teaches black people to love each other. And our love for each other is so strong, we don't have any room left in our hearts. Islam is a natural religion, and it is difficult to find a black body with a white head and classify that body as something that's natural. Most organizations that represent the so-called Negro, usually we find when we study them that though they are supposed to be for us the leadership or the brain power or the political power or whatever power that runs it, usually it's the white man. How could so few white people rule so many black people? Give them the thing for one another. How could so few? The white man today will tell you that thousands of years ago, the black man in Africa was living in palaces. The black man in Africa was wearing clothes. The black man in Africa was cooking and seasoning his food. The black man in Africa had mastered the arts and the sciences. The course of the stars in the universe before the man up in Europe knew that the earth wasn't flat. This black man in Africa had reached such a high state of civilization so long ago. At a time when the people of Europe were calling on their own food. To make these people or enable these people to come out of the cave and come down into our civilization and take it over and reach up to the block. What happened? How did they do it? These are the things you want to find out before you say hooray, hooray, hooray. Is that right or wrong?
It is knowledge of self that the so-called Negroes lack, which keeps them from enjoying freedom, justice, and equality. This belongs to them divinely as much as it does to other nations of the earth. We are the mighty, the wise, the best, but do not know it. Being without the knowledge, we disgrace ourselves, subjecting ourselves to suffering and shame. We could not get the knowledge of self until the coming of Allah. To know thyself is to know all men, as from us came all, and to us all will return. I must keep warning you that you should give up the white race's name and religion in order to gain success.
The days of success are over. Their rule will last only as long as we remain asleep to the knowledge of self. Awake and know that Allah has revealed the truth. Stop believing in something coming to you after you are physically dead. That is untrue, and no one can show any proof of such belief. Again, know that Jesus was only a prophet and cannot hear you pray any more than Moses or any other dead prophet. Know too that this white race was created to be the enemy of the black mankind for 6,000 years, which make their number to be 6. That is not your number or mine. We do not have a number because we have no birth record. Do not let anyone fool you. This is the separation and the war of Armageddon. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back on the Shoulders of Giants, and happy Monday. We are continuing our reading of Elijah Muhammad's message to the black man in America. And we are picking up on the second chapter, Original Man, which goes from pages 31 to page 67. And knowledge of self is where we're starting at. Knowledge of self, knowing who we are, understanding who we are, understanding our greatness, realizing our power, utilizing power, accumulating power. The overall thing that I gathered from the reading of this, and you'll see as we go through it, is, main things that we lack knowledge of self. We lack knowledge of self because of the oppression and the enslavement that has happened to us here in America. The white man brought Africans from Africa to over to America, stripped us of our consciousness in who we are, and implanted a foreign consciousness in us, implanted a foreign way of being into us, and we became the slaves, the workers, the labor for white America. That was the consciousness that was put into us. And with that consciousness being put into us, it keeps us in a docile and subservient position, even after being physically freed from slavery, because we were never brought here to flourish. So he's asserting that it is on us to put ourselves in a position of power to be able to flourish. But also he's getting at the nature of the white man. He believes white people are inherently evil. That is Elijah Muhammad's belief, that white people are inherently evil. The white people were created to be evil and through their evil atrocities, because in his mind the logic is only evil people oppress others. Only evil people oppress others. Right? So that's the logic and some of the philosophies that he's getting into. But knowledge of self, self-love, and the understanding of your enemies. Do you really understand your oppressor? Do you? Have you really taken the time to study your oppressor thoroughly?
Hold on.
Solo necesitas el nombre y la visión de tu proyecto para dar el primer paso.
Because if you haven't, you are far behind, and that may be one of the factors that lead to you or others really not gaining the power and the respect that we need. Do we really know our enemies? And another question, do we really know who we are? So let's get into it. So picking up on page 32, first, love yourself. One of the greatest handicaps among the so-called Negroes is that there is no love for self, no love for his or her own kind. This not having love for self is the root cause of hate, disunity, disagreement, quarreling, betraying, stool pickings, and fighting and killing one another. How can you be loved if you have not love for self? How can you be loved if you have not love for self? And your own nation and dislike being a member of your own, then what nation will trust your love and membership? So if you don't love yourself and your own people, why should other people from other nations love you? Why should people from other nations respect you? If you don't love yourself and your group, trust me, you won't get love or respect from any other group. You say of yourself, I love everybody. This cannot be true. Love for self comes first. The Bible, the book that you claim to believe, says, love the brotherhood. That's the 1 Peter 2:17. Love one another. That's John 15:17. Love of self comes first. The one who loves everybody is the one who does not love anyone. This is the false teachings of the Christians, for the Christians war against Christians. I mean, Islam war against Islam too. So my job is to read this book, but my job is to make sure the information comes across accurate and we give it right information, because we have to make sure we get it right. So yes, Christians did war against Christians, but Muslims also warred against Muslims. Let's not act like that didn't happen to them. So they have the Bible so twisted by adding in and taking out of the truth that it takes only God, or one whom God has given the knowledge of the book, to understand it. The Bible puts more stress upon love for thy neighbor than love for the brother. When asked, who is thy neighbor? The answer was contrary and incorrect. Jesus' answer was that of two men who were on a journey. They were not from the same place. One was from Jerusalem, the other was a Samaritan. The Samaritan came to where the man for Jerusalem lay wounded by the robbers who had stripped him of his possessions. The Samaritan showed sympathy for the fellow traveler. He was not a neighbor in the sense of the word. A neighbor can be an enemy. Many enemies live in the same neighborhood of a good neighbor. But the answer that Jesus gave was a futile one, which could be classified as a parable of the so-called Negroes, their slave masters. The so-called Negroes fell into the hands of the slave masters, who have robbed, spoiled, wounded, and killed them. The Good Samaritan here will be the Mahdi, God in person, and he is often referred to by the Christians as the second coming of Jesus, or the Son of Man to judge man. This one will befriend the poor, the so-called Negroes, and heal their wounds by pouring into their heads knowledge of self and others, and free them from the yoke of slavery, and kill the slave masters, as Jehovah did in the case of Pharaoh and his people, to free Israel from bondage and the false religion of God's Pharaoh. There are many proofs in the Bible which agree with the above answer. Love yourself and your kind. Let us refrain from doing evil to each other. And let us love each other as brothers, as we are the same flesh and blood. In this way, you and I will not have any trouble in uniting. It is a fool who does not love himself and his people. Your black skin is the best, and never try changing its color. Stay away from intermixing with your slave masters' children. Love yourself and your kind. I cannot agree with that more. We must love ourselves. That's one of the main things that happened to us as they broke us and made us slaves, is they made us hate ourselves. They made whiteness the standard, and blackness became something that we would run from. That's part of that foreign consciousness being implanted into us, right? So they taught us to hate ourselves and everything black. They still do the dog test, and every time they do the dog test, even the little children have learned from such a young age that blackness is not good enough. We must learn to love thyself. This melanin, all this melanin is so beautiful. I don't know about y'all, about how y'all feel about y'all melanin, but if y'all are anywhere in the same mind frame as me, this melanin is so beautiful. Oh, this skin is so beautiful. This nappy hair, it's so great. It's so great. It's so beautiful. My edge gone, but my bald head beautiful too, right? The side halves that still come in the back, they beautiful too, right? Everything about my blackness, everything about your blackness is beautiful. I 100% agree with that. We must first love thyself. You cannot love anyone else if you don't love yourself. Matter of fact, no other group of people will really trust us to be something viable to them if we're not viable to ourselves. Think about that. Don't be a token. Be respected. And one of the ways that we can get respect is to learn to respect and love ourselves first. We have to relearn how to love ourselves first. We have to get rid of the bake and the steam. Get rid of the bake and the steam. And learn to love ourselves as individuals and ourselves as a group. Self-love is the best love. I cannot pour love into you if I don't have love within me. All right?
That's deep. I talked to that brother. I'm gonna hopefully be on his show to talk about my book, The White Man's Burden of Lies and Deceit. He was feeling it, so hopefully I can be on the show, and then I'll let you guys know, when it will be, and then it can be on and popping from there. So, you got any thoughts about that, Brother Live? All right, so he's still there, but we're gonna go on to the next one, and this will be the last one. Hold on. It'll be the last one. And they're dealing with this brother from out of Africa, and Air France will not survive without African, of course. White folks will not survive without us. Fuck them, let them die. I'll be right back. This is 13 minutes, and I'll be right back, and then we'll close it out.
Shocking. What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing good. It's a beautiful day. Thank you very much for stopping by. You are very much appreciated. I feel good today, It's a beautiful day. Let me brush my beard. Yeah, I know. I look good. Yeah, so thank you for stopping by. We don't know each other. My name is Zach. But if you watch this video till the end, we're going to love you too. No doubt about it. Here we talk about most of the things. We talk about Africa. We talk about the diaspora. We talk about issues that we have on the ground. If you from Jamaica, from America, from all over the world, you want to know about what's happening in Africa for real, you are at the right place. So click on the button. I think it's called subscribe. We talk about most of the things, society, South Africa, Nigeria, Uganda, Kenya, things on the ground. Everyday things for the black people. Yeah. The white people are welcome too. As long as you love us, we love you too. Anyway, let's get back on track. We are in France. Here is France. I know many of you think you know where France is. This is where France is. And they're not very good at geography. Anyway, so Air France loses 65 million euros after being chased from Sahel. This is Sahel. These are the countries of Sahel. See the map? This is France. Now, how do they lose 65 million? They lost 65 million euros after they stopped doing business with the Sahel countries. So, a few years ago, France said, okay, we're not going to deal with you anymore. We're not going to fly our airplane to your countries anymore. I'm going to give you context to that. Air France has lost 65 million after its business in the Sahel was disrupted by the ban by cool countries, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. You remember these countries? I'm sure you do remember now. Now, the ban forced the French carrier to direct its routes to Central Africa with announcement of a partnership with the Gabonese airline. Let me explain to you. So, Air France used to fly to these countries. Why? Because these countries are French-speaking African countries. Why are they French-speaking African countries? Because these countries are part of the countries that were colonized by the French. And because of that, they have what they call a special relationship. It's like a father and a son. Yeah, father and the son, when the father actually takes everything from the son, kind of relationship they have. And France used to fly its carrier to these countries very much often. How often? Air France was, in fact, the main airline between Europe and Africa. You believe that? Yeah, it suspended its flights to Bamako. Here's Bamako on the map. There used to be 7 flights per week. Okay, here's Ouagadougou in Burkina Faso. There used to be 5 flights per week. And here's Niamey, 4 flights per week. On August 7, 2023, after the closure of Niger airspace, the scene of the coup d'etat in July 26, the following month, France classified the capitals of these countries as a red zone destination that it advised its national against it. Did you hear that? So France actually qualified these countries as a red zone and asked its people, its French national, not to go to these countries. Let me get back on track. Now, what happened? These 3 countries were tired of being ruled by France.
Not only will you get the old system, so you can go through the old 67 steps too, but I've got the new. I've learned a lot.
Oh, well, they were by France. After independence in 1960, the French said, well, let's go back to France. Let's give Africans an opportunity to rule themselves. The truth was that the French never really left. Okay, so they physically left, but in reality, economically, they were still in these countries ruling and, controlling
The bottom line is, right, even now, the currency used in these countries, French-speaking countries, you can see them, is printed in France. Yes, a currency that's supposed to be a sovereign property of the country is printed in France. So printed in France and sent to you. That's a technique they use to control these countries. Now, these three countries have something in common. What is it? The three countries toppled their president. Why did they topple the president? Topple the three presidents because the three presidents were puppets. Puppet of who? Puppet of France and Europe. Why? They used to give France and many other European countries access to their minerals with very cheap price or for very, specialized contracts. You know what I'm saying? But in the meantime, the people of those countries were going through the most. Let me explain to you, give you context. In Niger, for instance, Niger produces uranium. Uranium is what you can see here. Uranium is very important for development and for technology. Uranium is also what you need to create the atomic bomb. You see this atomic bomb? This is Japan. The uranium used here for the atomic bomb in Japan was taken from the Congo in DRC, Chipolobo. But up until now, that uranium has done absolutely nothing for the Congolese people. Same for Nigerian. In Niger, they take the uranium to produce electricity in France. France makes so much electricity with the uranium they buy from Niger that they sell electricity to other countries. You hear that? They get so much electricity by creating from the uranium both at a cheap price from Niger that they sell electricity to other European countries. Now, this is the contract between France and Niger back in time. France used to buy 1 kilogram of uranium from Niger at $0.80 a kilo, and they will pay for the same kind of uranium at 200 euros from the Canadians. So 0.80 for the African and $200 from the Canadian. Now you can tell how they think about you, right? Now, when these leaders from these three countries came, they toppled the president because those presidents were not working for the people. Let me give you another example about Niger. In Niger, they had so much uranium that France had an exclusivity access to it. They produced so much electricity for themselves to sell to Europe. In the meantime, people of Niger did not even have electricity for themselves. Sometimes they had to buy electricity from Nigeria. This is Niger, and this is Nigeria. I know some people are confused. Three different countries. This is Niger, this is Nigeria. Yes, you can see the border. They are the same people, but they were divided by colonialism. Now, in Nigeria, they sell electricity in Niger. And I know if you're Nigerian here, you're probably asking yourself, how come they're selling electricity? Because we ourselves don't have enough electricity. Yes, they have electricity for sale. They just don't have electricity for you. Okay? Let's get back on track. Now, when these three countries got a brand new government, this brand new government kicked out French representatives in their countries. France used to have soldiers, a military presence in those countries. Their goal was to fight terrorism because they proposed, let us come to your country and fight terrorism for you. And these countries say, okay, you can help us fight terrorism. Now, they had been there for decades, but nothing had happened. I mean, just imagine you have somebody coming to your house to help you chase a rat for 10 years and nothing, not even 10 years, for 2 days. You're going to ask for somebody else to come, right? Let me give you another example. You're sick, okay? Your head is sore. You go to the doctor and he recommends you something. You take it for 2 days. Your head is still pounding. What do? You go back to the same doctor? No, you don't. You go find another doctor because, dude, something is not right here, okay? That's exactly what these three countries did. They turned their face to Russia. Now, the Russians have more access to them than the French, and France is furious about that. So one of the reasons why Emmanuel Macron was up in arms, ready to go fight Vladimir Putin.
There is no consensus right now about sending in ground troops in an official, endorsed and sanctioned manner. But in reality, nothing should be ruled out. We will do whatever it takes to ensure that Russia cannot win this war.
Most people still think you need to have an online business to be able to do this. So it's 3 p.m. on a Tuesday, and I'm here in the city of Asunción.
It's because France is clearly losing its influence in African countries and Russia is taking over. Now, let's get back to context. We're talking about Air France. When French were being kicked out of these three countries, what did they do? They said, okay, so from now on, we're going to restrict the visas from you people. Talking about Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. Your people will not come here easily anymore. The visa things are going to be very complicated. That's what they applied. And after that, they said, okay, oh, matter of fact, you know what? The visa thing, yeah, we're actually not going to fly to your countries anymore because your countries are red zone. We don't want to do the same. It's dangerous for our people. So the goal was, let me put pressure on these Africans. They're going to shake and say, oh, no, let's cooperate. But the Africans say, not today. So France cut the ties. France stopped sending its airplanes to African countries. Now France wants to return to these countries. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you Africans, we done with you. You think you know the game. Okay, we don't want to fly our flights over you, and we're not giving you visas. These people stood ground. They did not go begging and negotiate. Few years later, what happening? The French are coming back looking for ways. You know, it's like somebody wants you back, but they don't come straight. They come in, you know, nyoga, they come snake. That's exactly what's happening. Now, they say they've lost 65 million euros since that stopped. But I want us to think about this because it makes no sense. The reason why they lost money is because there used to be a lot of tourists going to France. There used to be tourist visas. There was previously a tourist flow which no longer exists because the visa issued to Malians to go to France remains very restrictive. Apart from exemption from people in mission and, you know, students, they make it very difficult for Malians. And in return, Mali applied reciprocity. Even Franco-Malian now are forced to have a visa on their French passports before coming to Mali. So if you're French and Malian, you need a Malian visa to come. Back in time, they just needed a national ID, they could come in. But for now, Franco-Malian, you need a visa to come to Mali. Fellas, I have a problem with this. They said they've lost 65 million euros in that time. I just want to understand, and I want you to come to the party because this makes no sense. Let me give you an example. When these people came into power, they say they used to give Ouagadougou about 530 million euros a year. So development aid from France to Ouagadougou was estimated at 530 million euros. So we're together. They used to give 530 million euros to Burkina Faso. Why are they crying for $65 million? It doesn't make sense. If you gave 530 in aid, why are you crying now that you've lost 65 million? It doesn't make sense. Apparently, they used to contribute to 470 million euros gifted to the Malians. They gave to the Malians. Why are they complaining about 65 million? If you gave 470 million, it makes no sense. Apparently, the EU, with France, allocated 503 million euros of its budget to improve governance and education and sustainable growth in Niger between 2021 and 2024. How are they complaining about 65 million? It makes no sense. Let's put the numbers here. 530 million euros to Burkina Faso, 470 million euros to Mali, 503 million euros to Niger, and they're complaining about 65 million euros lost by Air France. No, it makes no sense. If you have money and you can provide money, why are you crying for the small money? It makes no sense. Unless you were making more money than the 500 and the 300 you used to give me. And see, that is not reported. Let's just use our brain here. Why are you complaining about 65 million if you used to give me 500 million? There must be something you used to do where was not registered that nobody could see. Just remember here, France's company used to exploit minerals in some of these countries. Gold in Burkina Faso, gold in Mali and many other things, as well as uranium, beside everything else. But they're giving you aid. You think they're helping you with aid? But maybe they are winning by taking what you don't quite quantify. Am I talking rubbish? I don't know. I mean, does it make sense to you that somebody will be complaining, oh, I've lost 65 million from not coming to your country, but I used to give you 500 million? No, makes no sense. Now they're trying to find a way to discuss and find something that makes sense. I think whether they accept or not, I firmly believe business should be win-win, you know? It doesn't matter. You don't have to love the person you're doing business with, provided that we are winning and there is respect. Let me know how you feel about this, fellas. It's always a great pleasure. God bless.
Are you there, bro? Okay. Any thoughts about that? We're gonna wrap it on up.
Man, I pretty much said it right before he came on, and that article confirms everything you spoke on and everything just seen in the videos. I don't really have much to say. What about you?
Yeah, well, we're gonna wrap it up then, and I'm gonna leave. You got any last words or closing comment?
I just want the people out there to check out melanininstitute.blogspot.com. And we're talking about all this stuff. There's so much going on. We couldn't possibly cover it all today. Always good to see my brother doing well, and the family's doing well back there. And thank you for having me every week, brother. I appreciate it, man. That's all I got right now.
Well, it's always a pleasure. Hold on, let me put some of these that you got here. Hold on. You got one about hold on. That Penny guy.
That's about the football game you was talking about.
Right. And hold on, let me get the other one. Oh. Okay, so hold on. So you got the Penny one, and Trump going attend Army Navy football game with GOP allies and nominees and Daniel Penny. Ain't that a bit? And the Cleveland Cavs. Oh, okay. I'll check that out.
Yeah, that was for you more or less. The one I was telling you about when the prince came to meet the king.
Okay.
In Brooklyn. And by the way, Kings County is the county name of it is Brooklyn. Excuse me.
Right.
Brooklyn's county is Kings County. My bad. I said it the other way around.
Right. Okay. Well, let me do my closing statement, I guess.
Okay.
But first, I want to give thanks to Sister Cassie and Rome in the Bush, Donald Muhammad, Brother Donald Muhammad, and Willie Rivers. I said that right. I didn't fuck it up. Willie Rivers. If I say it slower, then I'll pronounce it correctly. And,
again, it sounds like you said really Rivers.
Willie Rivers. Damn it. But it's all good. But thanks to you for coming on every week, and I really appreciate that. And I hope that this show will gather a crowd and people who are really into factual history that makes sense, that it is sensible, and that we as a people must stand together. A stick by itself can be easily broken, but 10,000 sticks will never be broken. That's the power of unity. And white folk under Hoover, when he was the head of the FBI, said emphatically that the real danger to America is black unity. Not only in America, but around the world. So that's the dope. That's the thing. That's the glue. That's the real deal Holyfield.
One more question for my brother.
Huh?
One more question for you, my brother, relating to everything we talked about today. Is this just historical, or is it historically biblical as well?
Both of them. Both of them. Because we can't do one without the other. It's just like faith. You can't have faith if you don't know. You don't know. The only way you can have faith by tying my shoes, because I know. If I don't know, I got to believe I can do it. If I don't believe I can do it, I got to know. And both of those make faith irretrievable in respect to the power within. Because it's not without, it's within. Everything within. Every time you look in the mirror, you're looking at the face of God. We are the gods upon the planet. We are not going anywhere. They might want to try to get us out of here, but they're the one who's going and gone. So like I always say, fuck all white folks and stay black, and we'll be back next week. And I'll see y'all tomorrow, Sister Cassidy. She's still here, baby. I'll see y'all tomorrow. I'm Brother Muhammad. Peace out. Stay black. And always remember, 365, 24/7. Stay black. Peace, bro. I'll see you.